Hey, okay, so welcome to Reel Horrorshow. This is our fourth episode.
And first of the new year.
And first of the new year, 2017. Happy New Year, guys. So I'm here with Conor McMahon.
Hello. Not going to stick.
It's going to stick. Helen Dowling.
Hello.
And Mark Skerridan.
This is never going to catch on.
And I'm Ali Horror, which obviously works. But,
Yes. Not Connor's name for you. No, you didn't decide to go for that.
What was your name for me? Dirty Alley or something? Dirty Alleyway?
Ali Gargoyle.
Dirty Alleyway. I kind of like that one.
Oh, Ali, what was it?
I said Dark Alley. Connor said Ali Gargoyle. And he said no.
No. Just out right now. So this week we're talking about werewolf movies.
Yes. And I got to say, I mean, werewolves, for me, I really love this genre, partly because I think it was my very first horror memory was seeing Thriller, like Michael Jackson's Thriller, and hiding behind the sofa with that transformation scene. That's my earliest memory of horror films. And I think I was talking to you guys, and maybe we can post it on the page, but one of my first short films was a werewolf movie. And that was partly inspired by seeing Thriller, seeing An American Werewolf in London, and seeing another film called I Was a Teenage Werewolf, which having those three films, I mean, they were the three first werewolf films that I saw, and so that really spurred me on to, you know, when the first horror film I was going to do, I was like, let's do a werewolf movie. Can
I ask you that? Okay, so like I love werewolves as well. I think most people kind of do, but I can't quite get why, because I don't think there's as many good werewolf films as I think there should be, but I love the creature. It's like a genre that, like, Wolfman is still as famous as Frankenstein and Dracula, and yet, I don't know, they're actually, I'd say some of the better ones have been in the more recent years, oddly enough.
It was an evolution. So for this, I kind of decided to look more at the evolution of the werewolf from the Wolfman, which was, I think, 1941.
1941,
with Lon Chaney. And how, I mean, that was, like, Universal Pictures were the studio that brought back horror, that essentially made horror movies the genre that it is today.
Was that the first werewolf movie?
Yep.
It was the first mainstream theatrically released.
Okay. They did a werewolf one before it, but it wasn't a success. I don't think it was a particularly good film. A couple of years before, Curse of the Wolf or something. Or no, was it The Werewolf in London? The original one. I'm pretty sure and it was actually before Wolfman, I'm pretty sure, but then this is the one that, you know, brought it completely into the mainstream.
Yeah, and so it's if we look at that movie in comparison to the werewolf movies that we have today, you can see like a big difference on how that was a love story essentially. That was, you know, oh, it's horrifying. Oh, this man transforms into a werewolf. It's actually a love story. So it is definitely the evolution. That's why there is a lot more and more recent ones that are better and scarier.
Is this the original Wolfman you're talking about, love story?
Yeah.
Trying to cheat on that girl was engaged.
Oh no!
Forbidden love.
And your man, it never really bothered him.
I know.
You never saw quite, what was his name, Frank or something, with his beautiful dog, like, oh, go outside, doggy. And then it's like, okay, I'm just going to let you talk to my fiance then. Bye.
I mean, it's interesting. For me, it was interesting looking at the Wolfman in relation to the modern remake of the Wolfman as well. And it kind of showed up for me because when I watched the remake, you know, there's a lot of things. I mean, should we talk about the storyline just to give people an overview?
Yeah, why don't you set it up?
Yeah. So today I wrote some notes.
Don't you mean you're reading it on your high definition screen in front of you as it crinkles?
They printed it off in very light grey, so it's hard to read this. But
half opacity.
Actually, before you get going, because like I know this is I also have for Wolfman, but for Wolfman as well, I had to write down the introduction that brings on. You know, there's a little scroll of text.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why, but I get such a kick out of these ones. But for like the Wolfman, so it starts off with, in many a distant village there exists the legend of the werewolf or Wolfman. A legend of a strange mortal man with the hair and fangs of an unearthly beast. His hideous howl, a dirge of death. It's just ... and then this film starts.
What I thought was funny about nearly every werewolf film as well starts with somehow the O of the wolf turning into the moon, or something turns into the. I think in that there's just a circle on a gravestone or something, and that turns into the moon. But it's just kind of funny to see how they did it different each time.
So tell us the story.
So now the original one or the remake?
Whichever.
Both stories are quite similar in the sense that it follows this character Lawrence or Larry, and his brother has died or gone. I mean, I'll just talk about the 2010 one because Lawrence is played by Benicio del Toro. He's a famous actor on the New York stage who returns to England to his father's estate after his brother has disappeared and is eventually found murdered, and he vows to help his brother's wife, who's played by Emily Blunt, find the killer. What I thought, now the first one is along those lines as well, but what I did find about the second one is, first of all, they make the really awful error of showing the creature in the opening scene, and he doesn't look very good.
Yeah. Which I think that's going to be a problem for a lot of these films.
Absolutely.
I think the werewolves are actually what let down most werewolf movies.
That should be like a factor that we rate each movie on, and the transformations. That's what I.
I have a couple of movies here where the rating.
Yeah, it is the most. But you're dead
really
right,
low.
and am I right or wrong? Was it Rick Baker? They got someone big for the Wolfman remake, and then they ended up just sticking a ton of CGI on top of it.
I think you're probably right. I can't remember off the top of my
When you say
head.
they got someone really big, do you mean someone really famous or someone really large?
An obnoxiously large
genuine
man.
question.
No, it was one of those like supposedly great makeup people, because I remember the PR at the beginning was like, this is going to be great. We've got like these guys back who've done the original ones. It was either Baker or maybe Rob Bottin, or I'm not sure, but it was one of the big guys who've done the gore and the effects in the cinema of the last 20 years. And then everyone think this is going to be great, and they made the film, and I think then the studio decided that they needed to oomph it up a bit.
Okay, that's actually the big problem with the film, the umphing up, because it's kind of like what they're trying to do with the werewolf is make a Dracula, like, the way Dracula was quite operatic and over the top, and even the score, which is done by Danny Elfman in this, it's nearly identical to the Dracula score.
And by that, I presume you mean the Coppola very over the top one.
Exactly,
It's a great movie.
I found the editing on the Wolfman, I thought, was really distracting. Like it's so flashy and jump cutty, and it was actually edited by Walter Murch was one of the editors, which I was surprised by.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's been Walter Murch who did Apocalypse Now, the Godfather film. Is one of the greatest.
And I was watching this film going, the editing is ruined this film, because I was actually, for the first half of the Wolfman remake, I was kind of enjoying it.
It looks beautiful, like it is stunning scenery and everything.
Yeah, it is. It's entertaining.
Yeah, and it's got a lot of good actors.
Great
like, I mean, you got
actors,
Hugo Weaving, you got Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
But weirdly, when I saw the original, then I realized what they'd done and why it didn't work as well is I think they wrote up a lot of those minor parts
for those big actors,
which didn't need to be written up, and actually unbalance the whole story. Like, there's no need for the detective who comes into the town to be a major, part. But obviously, to get Hugo Weaving, you need to write up that character, and then it becomes, a thing that's totally unnecessary. But the other thing I felt was that there were a lot of really lovely touches in the original that had an emotional quality, like there's this whole thing with the cane, the wolf with the wolf's head on it, and there's a scene at the end of the original one where he hands it to the father, knowing that he's got, like, take this with you, knowing that that'll be the thing that kills him, But it's quite a touching moment, and it's like they have all those elements in the remake, but none of them have any. They're just thrown in there.
There's no heart.
Yeah. It's like they lost all the. And in the original as well, they used the kind of device of him turning into a werewolf, like, to drive the plot. Like, like he kills somebody, or he says he's attacked by a wolf, but then his wounds are healing, and so they don't believe his story, and they're following the tracks to his house. But I don't know, the plot just is a lot tighter. And then the only final thing to mention is you get a much better sense of that family in the community and the power that they have, and how him coming back into the village is important in a way that in the remake is kind of lost completely,
Cool, yeah. And so for the original Wolfman, were there any kind of big names attached that were
huge?
Yeah.
Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney Jr.,
Bela Lugosi, was
Claude Rains.
It was at the time in 1941 some of the biggest names in movies. Yeah,
Lugosi wanted the main role, I'm pretty sure, and he got turned down. I think there was a bit of bitterness about that.
Sure.
But
he wouldn't have been a good Wolfman.
No, he wouldn't have been at all.
He was.
Dare I say he's not the greatest Dracula either?
He's not. No, Christopher.
Sorry, Bella. I know you listen.
He was great in Ed Wood.
He was wonderful. And Plan 9 from Outer
Best role,
Space.
best role. I mean, I really liked it, but in regards to what I was saying earlier, transformations, Connor sent over the Christmas break a clip of
Old Twinkle Toes, the werewolf.
We don't see the transformation. We literally just see he's like goes into his room and he looks in the mirror and he's like, oh, there's no hair, thank God. And then he's like, oh, but there'll be hair on my feet, won't there? So then all of a sudden he just takes off his socks and sure enough there's like the hairiest feet known to man.
Ew.
Oh my God. And then,
Nothing wrong with hair on your feet, folks.
yeah,
I
but-
think they do a bit of a dissolve.
There
They
is,
do-
isn't there?
but
Yeah, transition.
It's a really awkward, like, it takes so long.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's like constant and just slow. And then all of a sudden he has werewolf feet and then you don't see the rest of him and then he just tiptoes out of his room. And then you just see him in the forest and he's tiptoeing around. And then the next time we see him as well is when he gets his foot caught in the bear trap.
What's with all this foot stuff? I don't know.
I think it's because it was probably cheaper to show, you know,
Right,
at
yeah.
that time, and because they didn't have the effects, they didn't have the technology,
Yes.
and as well, again, this is the start of horror movies, the start
Yeah.
of monster movies, so they didn't really have such a great foundation for makeup and for prosthetics and how to actually transform someone into a wolf. But when he gets his foot caught in the man trap. Or the bear trap, excuse me, and he makes that little face.
He's like having a little snooze.
It was trying to do the animal like persona, maybe not quite as convincing as
Yeah.
could have been.
I mean, it is one of those questions as well, is how successful at the 2-footed werewolf is as compared to the 4 where it's down on all fours and it's more of a wolf. Because I think one of the things, you know, when they do that backward kind of
The dog leg.
thing,
Yeah.
it just never quite looks right a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, like I mean, I think it doesn't look right most of the time, but I think that's the way it should be. Like if you're a werewolf, if it's half man, half wolf, like it's something on all fours is just a big dog to me, right?
Well, when we talk about Dog Soldiers,
Yeah, you see-
greatest werewolf movie of all
Because
time.
without jumping
episode
the
1,
shark, that is like for me that's going to be what I think a werewolf looks like.
It's
Yeah.
but-
You
and
know.
it was the first time I ever saw a werewolf looking like that.
Yeah, no, me too.
Like an
Um,
upright, standing upright, like
What
10
about
foot
Bad Moon,
tall.
I still haven't watched
What
that.
about-
Actually.
oh,
Let's
I
finish
watched it last
Wolfman.
night.
Yeah, we'll
Let's finish
finish
Wolfman and get on with it. So Connor, then like, because obviously it's kind of hard. We're watching the Universal films. They're much older.
Yeah.
You know, some people watch them with kind of a charm because it's a nostalgic type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some people watch them and still think they're brilliant films. Is it one of those things where you still think, is it worth watching for people who haven't gone back that far with things like, are they going to get anything out of it?
Yeah, I think it's actually it's not a bad film. Like I do think it is a good film and it's got a lot of nice moments. And I mean, certainly if you were going to compare it to the modern one, it's the story I think is a lot better, a lot tighter.
Is the Wolfman? Is that Wolfman the one where when he's transforming, he's walking by the pillars, and each time he walks by a pillar, he's a little bit more transformed?
No.
That's a different one. Oh shit. Okay, because that was in one of the werewolf movies I watched, and you know they did that thing. So he walks by the pillar,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
so
More
so then
transformed
you
each
can
time.
cut there and like pan with the action there, and so he's a little bit more transformed each
It's
time.
not
he
a
walks
bad
by the
idea of
pillar.
doing it, actually.
It's
'cause a
really cool.
Yeah,
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 it's really.
We should have a
clever.
chat actually about the challenges of those werewolf transformations and like what should
Yeah.
you show or shouldn't you. But I just on the Wolfman, the only thing I thought, well, it was kind of interesting. I don't know if I completely buy it, but I read someone's interpretation of Wolfman because that came out in 1941, and there was the implication that because like he's a good guy who gets bitten and taken over, or well, it's a curse actually, isn't it? Or was it curse?
Yeah, it's a curse. There's a plot device as well in it where he goes to get his fortune read
Yes.
with the gypsies and she
sees the pentagram in his hand. is
Yeah,
it?
exactly.
'Cause-
And whoever he sees that on is going to be who he
But
kills
this
next.
is where the reading of it came from, that it was actually, because this was obviously the rise of fascism in Europe at the time, and the whole Wolfman being a good man who was turned into a monster by a belief system. And then anyone he sees, the pentagram, which is quite like the Star of David,
Yeah,
is the
yeah.
next person that this monster is going to destroy.
Okay.
And throughout the film, he kills all the people with the pentagrams on them.
Right.
So it was, it's an interesting one. I kind of looked it up, and to me, they started using the Star of David on Jews in kind of around 1939, but it didn't really come into play until 1941, 1942. So unless they responded to that very quickly, I'm not sure whether that's just a convenient reading, but it's an
Right,
interesting idea.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
and
totally.
as well, even on the history of like the werewolf myth as well. I was reading up on it a little bit, and they were talking about online. They were talking about how years ago when people lived near wooded areas and forests, they literally lived in fear of wolf attacks, like on a regular basis. And wolves were like big, strong, vicious creatures, And that gave way to a lot of folklore, urban legends and myths. And there's this great story, I think it's in Germany, about this wolf that kept coming down to the town and murdering, women, children, men, until a group of people set out to hunt it. And they hunted it and they shot it and stabbed it and they beat it. And then when they went to its body, it was actually a man. And it turned out that this man was this local, he was like a priest in their town who had been like messing with the dark arts.
Right.
And he'd been like shape-shifting and taking on the form of werewolves,
Right.
So that's kind of where it started with the mythology of it, and it's interesting to see how it's evolved into cinema as well.
I think it's interesting as well in some of the films, deciphering the different like mythology behind it, like the full moon, for example. I don't remember the full moon being in the Wolfman at all. The silver, yes,
they mentioned when the moon is bright, but that didn't become a definite thing until later on. But the first Wolfman brought in some people think it brought in the silver, which it didn't. I think that there was a book in the 19th century that had that book. Apparently the Wolfman's the first one where it's transmitted by a bite.
Yeah.
That didn't exist in the mythology of the original ones, because original Wolfmen in normal folklore was you could just kill it with anything. Like it was just a person. It was a wild man.
Yeah.
A wild man.
Like a wilding. Sorry.
One of the things I found, I'll just mention this because it does come up later in other films. There's something really silly when in the modern remake of the Wolfman, when you get two werewolves fighting each other.
Right.
Yeah. Wolf had the same
there
problem.
Should only be one.
Well,
no, except in Dog Soldiers when there's a pack, but they don't fight against each other because it takes you away. Like you want to see a werewolf fighting you. You want to see a werewolf fighting a human, and if they're fighting each other, then you're like, oh yes, one of them's going to die.
It's trying to replicate the animal like moves though as well, isn't it? Or something where they have like, it's like the superhuman jumps and because
like to me it's just, it always sort of lets down the film when you have two werewolves start fighting each other.
But what I kept seeing in all of these movies was a werewolf fighting a dog. And like,
certainly one of the ones you recommended that I watched this morning, Conor Dowling. We're going to talk about that soon.
But it seems like something that they were constantly trying to chase was this idea of like, it's like man versus beast, but this is like half beast versus beast.
It's kind of interesting. The last point just on the Wolfman, the original one, because it is kind of a lot of the later werewolf films. It's a lot more obvious what they're trying to draw from. Like a lot of the storylines tend to be a guy who's a bit of a pushover and he needs to find the animal
finding your inner
within.
man, isn't it? Like it's unleashing the
absolutely.
But it's not as clear in the original Wolfman what
Well, there's kind of this. There's that almost the historic behind the family. Like if you listen to Claude Rains talk about it, and he's like, "Oh no, that was that's just a myth in our family. Like 50 years ago, someone was like attacked by a wolf or was a wolf man. It's just like legend." So
because
it's like he was destined for it.
Yeah.
There's
definitely a sense that family is cursed.
Yes.
And there's also so when I was a kid, my dad used to like scare the absolute hell out of me. My uncle was apparently a werewolf and he grew wolfbane. Has anyone heard of wolfbane? Do you ever hear
I
of
see it in all the films.
Right. So I've never seen wolfbane, but I'd actually like to see. My dad used to tell me that if I either got caught in the basement, my uncle would attack me because that's where he would be chained up for the full moon. It's just a joke, but I love my uncle. But or wolfbane. Like, I would like to actually see a movie with
the one.
Wolfbane.
What's
the Beast Must Die?
Beast Must Die. There is. Well,
it?
I wanted to know, was that actually Wolfbane? Because there's a plant in there. It's kind of a purple one, but like judging by the film, I'm not sure I trusted any of it is reliably sourced. Yeah, see that. Like,
is that the thing in Ginger Snaps 2, especially?
Yes.
That he's using
to suppress it.
In The Beast Must Die, there's a line where the scientist says,
let's talk about it. Come on, Conor, you want to talk about it. Get in.
Well, this is a line from The Beast Must Die. I'll explain what the movie's about in a little bit, but in the film, everyone talks like this for some reason. And speaking of wolfbane, someone says, while in Poland they may rely on wolfbane and garlic flung about the house, I prefer to rely on science. Right? So that's the kind of movie we're dealing with here. It's set in England, I think, because everyone talks like that.
It's an Amicus film. So like,
oh no way, okay.
Hammer not so good. Though I've got quite a fondness for.
I have a big fondness of Amicus.
It's
We
a
can talk
very
about that later.
silly film, but I
Not one of
absolutely
their better
recommend everyone to watch it, because. Well, so basically, yeah, it's set in England. It's in this big old mansion, and there's this guy. He's like an eccentric billionaire, and he hunts everything. Okay, there's even a line about him. His name is Tom, and someone says about him, Tom hunts everything. If it exists, he's shot it. Right?
Goldfish.
He invites a bunch of people who he has met over his life to his house for some reason for the weekend of a full moon, where he believes that one person at this table is a werewolf. So it's like a murder mystery kind of thing with
Doesn't
a
it
werewolf.
at the start as well invite the
Yes.
audience?
It's interactive. It's 1974 and it's an interactive adventure mystery movie. So it's like one of the people in this film is a werewolf. Follow the clues and see if you can find out. Towards the end, we'll pause the film and you'll get to decide. And then
They do pause.
They pause the
for
film
30 seconds.
For 30 seconds,
Oh,
and
I need to see this.
they show like a shot of each person's face from throughout the film. It's like, is it this person?
Do you know who it is?
Yeah, or
Could it
this
be?
Don't tell me who it is.
brilliant.
I'm
It's
I'm
brilliant.
No,
hooked.
it's not great.
I'm
Because it
hooked.
says, like, have you put all together all the clues and figured this out? There are
There are
no
no
fucking
clues.
clues. Like, there's nothing
There are
that
no
makes
clues.
any sense.
It's one of these things where there actually is one clue, and I managed to guess who the werewolf was because of a kind of a throwaway kind of scene at the start. But everything else, it really tries to misdirect you. Peter Cushing is in it, and so is the
Peter, for anyone who doesn't know, that you will have seen him recently in his best performance in Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, as a slightly odd-looking CGI
I
creation.
heard. I still haven't seen Rogue One. I mean, Peter Cushing's. I'm sorry.
And he's also, or who else is in it? Is
Blofeld?
the guy from
Savant?
Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Yeah,
who,
and it was also
Richard
Blofeld.
O'Brien.
no, the narrator, the guy.
Charles Gray.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the guy, exactly. So they are guests at the table as well.
And Dumbledore.
Richard Harris.
No.
Michael Gambon.
Yeah.
Okay, right, yeah. See, I recognize a lot of these people, but I didn't know
Irish.
what they were from. So as a werewolf movie, it's quite a mystery. You know, you're trying to figure out for the whole movie who is the werewolf going to be, and where the fuck is the werewolf as well, because you don't see a werewolf in the entire film, but you don't see what is supposed to be a werewolf until 49 minutes into the film, and the film's only an hour and 20 minutes long.
Thankfully.
Oh wow.
But the mystery, the plot does kind of keep you going. You do kind of watch it going, oh, I just want to know like who it is by the end, because I haven't figured it out myself, right? But the most disappointing thing of the film is when you see glimpses. Now, you never see a full-on shot of this wolf that they have.
They're running through the woods, don't you? There's
But it's shot in kind of shadows, and they're
Yeah.
really trying to pull the wool over your eyes with this one. Like, you know, it's really like, I'd rather a guy with a bit of hair sticking out the cuffs of his shirts and a werewolf mask running around in jeans and a t-shirt than what they got, which is basically they got like an Alsatian dog and put like a mane of fur around his neck. And he's a big dog, I'll give him that. Like, but when he's attacking people, it just looks like a big dog jumping up on people.
He looks like quite a happy big dog.
that was in Hammer Horror's Hound of the Baskervilles, where they they had like a big dog in Alsatian, and they tied a mask, like a
Yes.
werewolf face mask onto this dog. But that was actually a device within the movie. Like,
Exactly, yeah, no, it was.
when they find the
Yeah.
dead hound, they take this mask off, and they're like, oh,
I
it's just a dog.
I just imagine one of those, you know, those real cheap Halloween masks with the like white string and the. I just imagine that on a dog, and they're like, "Oh my god, that's not his face at all." But like, there's just some really stupid stuff in it. Like, there's this thing where this helicopter pilot wrestling with the dog on the grass, and Tom, the hero guy, is trying to shoot at the dog, and he shoots the helicopter pilot, and it explodes. Like,
He
And
goes
helicopter
full.
explodes.
It's like First Blood Part 2.
Yeah.
He takes out a machine gun and blows the shit out of a greenhouse, and then but like it's just a shot of like the main actor in this, interesting enough for an Amicus film, is a black actor. I can't remember quite what his name was, but he was hired because blaxploitation was quite big at the time.
Yes.
So Amicus were trying to tack into that a little bit, and also by casting a black actress in it, but dubbing her with an English person,
Yes.
white English
Ah,
person, which is
Jesus.
nice and uncomfortable. But yeah,
and the film actually starts with this black man being hunted by all these rich white guys, and you're going, what is this movie?
Yeah.
You know, what is this? But it turns out, like, it's a 5-minute scene. It turns out that he's testing out this like elaborate kind of course that he has designed himself. You
But
know?
you're still talking about the same movie.
Yeah, it's
beast must
weird.
die.
Yeah, like so the opening's an interesting one because it starts with him like just in a kind of a black suit racing through the thing, and these hunters coming after him. and you can see he's being monitored by security cameras
Yeah.
and everything. You're not quite sure what's going on, and every now and then one of the hunters seems to catch him and point the gun at him. And like, you know, they could pull the trigger then, but they don't, and he gets up and runs again, and they keep hunting him. It's very odd, but you kind of presume this is going to play a major factor later on in the story.
Yeah.
Not really. And oddly, like, he can record everything, including people walking around outside, and hear their conversations. But when he randomly gets attacked once or twice by the werewolf, there's no footage of it, and no one knows. It's just.
But is the curse carried on?
If you bite, yeah.
The thing I found with this film was that if it had like, I mean, yeah, it's camp and it's cheesy and it's unintentionally funny a lot of the time, you know, but you get a bit of a laugh out of watching it. But I found that the story did kind of keep me going as to wondering who it was. And then when you do find out who it was, there's kind of a further twist to it. So it kind of got me thinking that this film, unlike The Wolfman, would actually make a really good remake.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think you could do a good modern day remake that, you know, a bunch of people go to a mansion and it's like they've got this high tech security and there's a werewolf on the loose that actually looks like a fucking werewolf. You know?
No, you're right. Actually, you could. There's definitely all the ideas are there because the security and everything. There's nice ideas. Because problem for me is most of the film is actually them kind of sitting around a dinner table, all kind of going, "Well, it can't be me." And like if they hand another silver fucking candlestick to each other, they do this about 3 times.
Yeah.
Like, well, clearly I've held the silver candlestick, so it can't be me. And they, you know, you're just kind of going, oh, and they all hold it at one point. And so, you know, and I know that's a bit of a misdirection.
But then there's a part where
just...
at the end where he gets them to put a silver bullet in their mouth and everyone does it and then he hands it to a person and it cuts away and then it cuts back and they're just covered in hair. And you're like, oh!
That was one of my favorite lines, actually. I noted down when they're trying to figure out who it is. So you got Peter Cushing basically kind of explains the science of how it could work and why the wolf's bane and the silver and everything. But there's a great bit where he's in a security room looking down on the people and they're monitoring one of the guys in his bedroom when he takes off his shirt. And the security guy, where I have it written here exactly because it's fucking priceless. The security man goes, "A great many men have hair on their chest." And the main guy goes, "Yeah. And on the back of their hands too." It's just that doesn't. That's not that crazy. But I don't know. It like I know what you're saying about the Alsatian because the German Shepherd like doesn't work. But then like, cause we're gonna get on to Wolfen later on. I think I suppose they're actually real wolves and not a dog. But for me, that worked a lot better than a lot of the cheap done up special effects on the werewolves. There are werewolf films that we'll probably talk about today that I quite like the idea, the story, everything, and then when you see the thing and you just kind of go, nah.
That's the thing, even like of having the real wolf as opposed to a man like wolf, like True Blood. I don't know if any of you guys watched it.
I tried getting into that and I really want to. It's great. Yeah, but the first couple episodes pretty sleazy.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, you know, the most kind of like if you think HBO shows can be like overly gratuitous, this is like the ultimate of that, you know.
Anna Paquin.
Like the thing about HBO is you kind of have these different like factions of, you know, you have your vampires, you have your
it's the Twilight type.
Not necessarily. It's not really. It's much grittier. And
I'll have a word to say about that in a moment.
It's much grittier than Twilight for sure, right?
Oh yeah.
But
it's always 18s. Like there's no.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. It's very gory and brutal and that. But you have your vampires, you've got your shapeshifters, which is an interesting one, and then you have your werewolves, and they all kind of are in their own kind of packs.
And
witches and all
you have
other
everything.
things.
True Blood covers everything.
But in the werewolves in True Blood, they're like they're these people, and they kind of have like in their human form, they have their werewolf like qualities, you know what I mean? Like, so they would be kind of big and strong and kind of like territorial, like in their attitudes, like, you know, the way they approach things. And then when they transform into just these like cool looking wolves that the type of wolves in like Game of Thrones or something, you know, those type of dire wolves. So, and I'm sure in that show they probably just use CGI or something like that, or maybe they got some sort of wolves and made them look cooler with CGI. But that works. That works.
Yeah,
Getting a fucking dog and putting a piece of fake hair on it does not work. Like,
it's like in Alien 3 when they put the alien outfit on a little dog. It's in the extended version of Alien 3, but like, because they were trying to not have to go to the CGI, which I know a lot of people don't like in Alien 3, but like it when you see the shot, it's basically a dog wandering across the thing with an alien.
I think from the movies that I saw, werewolves are definitely better when they are they're not CG, when you don't rely on effects. Like even if we go into like territories of like Harry Potter and the werewolves in Harry Potter, The Prisoner of Azkaban, my favorite book. Worst film because of the werewolf.
Oh, best
Really?
film.
No, the werewolf is ridiculous.
Oh no, the
though.
werewolf
Awful.
isn't good, but the film
remember
is.
there being a
awful.
werewolf in
It's
that.
god awful. It's just awful. And then even Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Actually, no. Well, that's all.
I thought
that's
in
Seth
Buffy,
Green
I thought the stories of the werewolves were good. That you had Oz, and he was like, struggling with this thing privately, but then it was coming out around his friends, and he was locking himself up, and it ran in his family and all this sort of thing.
He struggled.
But then when you saw the actual wolf itself, it was like a guy in a big gorilla suit.
It was, yeah. And
it
he
was.
did. Do you remember when they locked him in the cage and he's like
Yeah,
hanging around?
But you still bought it. You know what I mean? You still watched it, and because that was a really high quality show. Like, it was really well produced. Like, and the
best
stories
show.
were great. Like, so even though you're going, oh, he kind of looks like a dude in a costume.
Yeah,
Still
but
better
I
than
still
a
think
dog.
it works better than
a dog.
than a werewolf that's literally computer generated.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
even
they've never
even
gotten that right.
There was that it's really hard to say. Red Riding Hood.
Oh, that was
Red
your one by
Riding Hood, yeah.
Catherine, the one who did the first Twilight director, Catherine Hardwicke,
Oh,
wasn't it?
really?
Yeah, the
Oh,
recent one,
Amanda
a few
Seyfried.
years ago. Yeah.
As well, that was actually
meant
it
to
was,
watch
it was
that for
quite
this,
it was
but
quite
it was
interesting.
fine,
I
yeah.
quite liked it, but again, the werewolf because it is a werewolf is that. It's why I prefer older and obviously dog soldiers because they relied more on makeup and in-camera effects and it was more realistic, I feel.
You know what had a brilliant werewolf? I thought, well, not brilliant. You know what had a great werewolf? That was costume, but or maybe it was a puppet, but looked real and had lots of great gore. Was the film Bad Moon? Did anyone watch Bad Moon?
I wanted
No.
to, but I didn't get around to.
It's a bad movie. it's a really bad movie, but they got the werewolf bits right. I thought,
Okay.
and
awesome.
the werewolf was kind of tearing people apart, and there was lots of good gore. But Jesus, man, that was a bad script, and I thought I didn't know what Mariel Hemingway is in it, and she's really bad in it, and the guy who plays her brother in it is really bad, and the kid is really bad, and the werewolf fights a dog at the end.
Werewolves
You have this, you like attract.
But every now and again you see these cool shots of the werewolf, and he's kind of got stuff coming out of his mouth, and he's got big sharp teeth, and he looks like a man.
Is he a man with two legs?
Yeah, he's on his hind legs, and they shoot it right, they shoot it the right way, I think,
Okay.
but it doesn't make up for the plot of the film. It's just like,
But that's even without getting onto the other movies. But what about, because as a general thing with these werewolf ones, I think part of the reason these films get so stuck is on that trying to introduce this world, because so many of them rely on that nature of someone gets bitten or scratched and you have to spend a certain amount of the film of the person not knowing what's happening to them. But it's like we live in a world in the same way in a zombie film, we don't want to spend half the film before someone figures out shoot them in the head.
Yeah.
That you kind of want to get to, which Dog Soldiers does wonderfully. But and you're looking for those ones that, because I'm not against American Werewolf actually, but it just, a lot of these other ones I think are bogged down by.
Yeah, but what I loved
Setting it up.
about, but I did love about American Werewolf in London is how it still puts the film in the context of other werewolf films. Like in that conversation in the pub at the start, it's like, that's the mark of a Wolfman. It's they actually reference the Wolfman from 1941.
Let's do Werewolf. I love it. Go on. American Werewolf in London.
American
I
Werewolf in
presume this
London.
is your favorite?
Oh yeah, I think definitely. Even after rewatching them all, it was even better than I thought it would be, and even the
Stands up
transformation
great.
was. It really
The
stands the test of
transformations are
time.
amazing.
Nothing has come close to
Can I
it.
just say one thing about this movie? Although I love it, and it is one of my favorite werewolf movies, Jack is my favorite. The rotting corpse more so than the werewolf.
I love Jack.
I love
the
Jack.
Rotting
He's
Corpse.
great.
I love the dream where the
Nazi
the monsters
wolfmen.
break in and shoot the place up.
Yeah.
I think that is
double-
just
the
And it
double
even
fake
got
out.
it even got me again. And I mean, I've seen that film a million times when she goes to the curtain and the guy comes again. My favorite, I saw that. My favorite screening of American Werewolf was they did an anniversary of it in Fright Fest, but John Landis was there and he was sitting in front of me and he was talking through the whole film, so it was like a live commentary. But I really wanted to just lean over and go,
Was it annoying
"Sorry,
talking?
could you keep it down there, please?"
And could you hear what he was saying? Like, was he like?
He was more just laughing. I couldn't exactly
look
hear
at
what
this!
he was
Look
saying.
what I did here! Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so good! Oh,
I love Landis.
It's not
great.
like, there's not even much of a synopsis to give on American Werewolf in London, though, is it? It's like it's two American guys are hitchhiking around Europe. They get to England. They go to a dodgy pub, the Slaughtered Lamb.
Yeah.
And
we've all had that experience where you go into a pub and
In the middle of
everyone,
nowhere.
literally everyone
and
just
Rick
turns
Mail
around.
looks over at you. Did you notice Rick Mail's one of the
And
guys in
you're
the
just-
bar?
Oh, really?
Yeah. No.
But yeah, so it's just, it was the steer clear of the moors and beware of the moon. It's just,
Yeah.
But yeah, basically he gets bit, his friend gets killed, and
The atmosphere that film creates, though, with the moors and
I love the Moors.
I love
mean,
the howl as well.
Yeah.
The wolf, like for me, that is the sound of a werewolf.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. The other thing that film does really well is, again, it's one of the great horror comedies.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I noticed is what it does brilliantly is it separates often the horror scenes and the comedy scenes. So you can have a classic, really scary horror movie and then come straight into a really funny comedy scene. And
Yeah, the comedy isn't making fun of the horror.
Yeah.
They're two separate
Yeah.
things. It's a horror film with comedy in it.
yeah, exactly.
No, it's great. The only thing, because I do the transformation we talk about in a moment, is undoubtedly the best of all these
Yeah.
films, and
Yeah.
I don't know if it actually will ever be beaten. And it's proof that CGI is not the answer to everything.
Yeah.
It's not.
But the fucking four-legged, big lumpy thing at the end, I don't like the wolf when we see it. I find that.
I
much
remember
more
being
problematic.
disappointed with the ending of it.
It's
when
very
I
abrupt,
rewatched
the
it.
ending and everything as well.
Yeah, I was kind of because I almost love the build up of that film more than anything else. In all these other movies, I'm like, oh, give us some werewolves, get to the werewolf bit.
Yeah,
but in
yeah.
that, I just love, like you're saying about creating the atmosphere.
Yeah.
The stuff on the moors, the weird, creepy dream, and then the transformation itself is almost like the climax of the film for me.
Yeah.
But that werewolf doesn't necessarily stand out to me as.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I loved Jenny Agutter as the nurse
Yes.
character,
Yeah.
that dynamic between the two of them is brilliant. Like it's one of the things that's often missing from some of those other, and actually coming to the Jack Nicholson Wolfman, and if you look at the chemistry between Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer as compared
You
to
say nothing bad about Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
No, but I
Jack
just
Nicholson.
Or Jack Nicholson.
no, I mean, like, great movie, but I just
I
don't
love
buy that
No, yeah.
relationship in a
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
that this one I thought was really. It was something really sweet and kind of.
There is chemistry between them, but she's confident and cute in her own way as well. She's sure of herself. She's not just kind of like, I don't know, what's the word for it? She certainly isn't just like looking up to him. David isn't just this amazing thing. Like, she's well able to handle herself. In fact,
Yeah,
she pushes him
yeah.
around a bit,
Yeah,
and it's nice
yeah.
to actually see that. Yeah.
I just had a revelation actually when we were talking about this, and werewolf movies are better when they're set in England.
Do you know what? I have to say, I noticed this from watching the films. It nearly feels like whenever I watched a werewolf film and it was set in England, it felt like I was back home again. Do you know what I mean? And that could come from seeing American Werewolf. That was the first kind of werewolf film I remember. But I mean, I watched another one. It was made last year called Howl.
Yeah.
And it was set in England.
Yeah.
And it feels like the home of the werewolves.
It feels right.
Oh.
Yeah.
So that's why American Werewolf is the best one, because you have the style of the American
But it's in
filmmaking in
England.
London.
And so one of my other favorite second, well, we're not going to judge it, but Curse of the Werewolf, Oliver Reed, 1961, England, and then obviously Dog Soldiers, which I'm so excited to talk about.
Yeah, we'll get onto that in a
technically
moment.
Scotland, but
Yeah,
whatever.
not England. Let's be clear. on that.
Some people would argue
They voted
that it
no.
is
No, I
England.
know. But
That was part of the actual referendum. They were like, Dog Soldiers, yay or nay, and they were like, no, it's England.
You can keep your werewolves.
Crazy.
Yeah.
It divided the nation, literally.
but
yeah.
sorry, that was just a revelation. Just when you guys, my cogs were like turning, I was like, wow.
Yeah, I think it's the
England.
moors and that sort of
It is the moors.
wilderness,
Yeah.
and maybe even that idea of the hounds of the Baskervilles. You're kind of grown up with this idea that a werewolf could, if it could live anywhere, it's possibly the moors.
I think it's and this is excuse me for saying this, but also when we think of old school England, we think of class and society and like the Hellfire Club, and you want them all to be cursed kind of because they're all like, facking about. So it could be that as well, that they are cursed because they have shagged the devil or whatever.
Yeah, a lot of dabbling in occultism.
Yeah.
But but just on American Werewolf then, before we kind of move, even though you could talk about it all day, but I know we've tons of ones to get through. The transformation, okay, because we do have to talk about it, and obviously that would this came out at the same time as The Howling, which I think we'll spend a little less time on. I know it's held up there. I don't really get it. Like, I love Joe Dante.
Yeah.
You know, I love Dee Wallace, but the film itself is a bit all over the shop. But so this is like, I think within a year of each other, because your man left The Howling to do the effects on American Werewolf.
Okay.
Left like literally a couple weeks into production.
Wow.
But the werewolves in The Howling are crap because it's that huge big, it's a guy with a big suit on him, so they're massive big chunky things,
But
you know.
snout.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that transformation.
That's what I was going to say, the transformation.
But that's the only
it
part.
works better for me in American Werewolf. It's the really tricky part is trying and I don't know how the makeup guys did it on any of these films. In fairness, as much as we can criticize The Howling, it's bizarre.
Okay, so The Howling. Well, do you know what the thing
when
that
it changes to the wolf's face?
Because again,
In
it's
American
hard to
Werewolf,
not compare it directly with the American Werewolf in London. And, and the thing that struck me about the American Werewolf is, I thought it was very well edited in a sense that The Howling was more like they were going, look at how great our effects are.
Yeah.
And the transformation is way too long. And they also have, the girl is in the room and she's watching the transformation for about 3 minutes and doesn't run out of the room.
Yeah.
So in a way, even story-wise, it's jarring with me.
It feels really lazy on a lot, even just the story, because like I like the basic concept of a news reporter, you know, she's tracking this serial killer, turns out he's a werewolf. That's interesting. She goes off to the resort. There's the whole question of what's going on there. So on that level, like, there's all stuff that could work fine, but yet they didn't seem to be really that arsed in getting any of it that right. It was just kind of like, well, we have these good bits and we know we've got a cool werewolf, which turned out to be not so cool, unfortunately. Like, well,
apart from that snout,
only because actually they didn't know obviously American Werewolf was going to come out and look that good. If it didn't, The Howling probably would have gotten a lot more love.
My other kind of two little problems with The Howling were, one, it's like I love when the extraordinary comes into the ordinary world.
Yes.
Like as in, you know, American Werewolf, it's like normal London and you have a werewolf. And to me, The Howling was like two weird things. It was a kind of a weird, you know, resort sort of
like bottle movie kind of thing where it's all in one.
What I mean is it was a strange location and weird location, and also on top of that there was a weird werewolf.
Yeah, like you could almost just have your Stuck on a Subway movie.
Yeah,
you know, and that would be kind of one movie and then a werewolf movie. So it was like a thing on top of a thing.
I did like the hand transformation, the chopped off hand.
Oh yeah,
that was cool.
That was actually
that
really
was yeah. I'll give it that. I'll give it the snout and the hand transformation.
But what about the animated shot? Do you know there's a bit where it's literally like it's hand drawn?
Yeah, what was it? Remind, because I was a couple of weeks ago.
Oh my
when I watched
god, it's awful. It's literally like they do the transformation. They got someone to draw, like physically paint onto the cells. And it literally looks like it turns into a cartoon. A cartoon.
Wait, what part of the movie is
in hell?
I know, yeah. There's a scene, it's a campfire scene where he transforms, but the last shot of it goes out to this wide shot where it transforms, and it's literally a drawing.
It's a weird one, but so
like aha, take on me.
Just on that bit that I was trying to get before then, it's like why I don't know the answer to this one. Why for me, American Werewolf, when his face transforms into the wolf and the snout stretches out and everything, that looked
amazing.
Yeah, it looked, but for some this sounds stupid, but like in some reason in my head that looked like that could somehow happen, or that might be how you'd see a face change in The Howling, because it's very impressive the way you see it grow out, but it looked kind of like a big kind of chunky robot underneath human skin. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And if you also remember as well, American Werewolf did it in bright daylight.
Yes, actually, no hiding at all.
As opposed to the other one, which was sort of lit and in darkness.
They looked very plasticky as well. The Howling one, it looked kind of.
I think it was very latexy, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was interesting that you were saying that it looked like that could actually happen, like the snout extending. Because I heard John Landis talking about that, because that scene has, like, you know, it's in all of these top 100 special effects scenes or whatever of all time. And I heard him talking about it, and he was saying that he had to really think about, like, you know, what would actually happen if your body was morphing into a werewolf, and, you know, you'd have your joints like retracting.
It was the pain of it as well.
Yeah, the pain of it, exactly. And he said he really thought about it from like an anatomical point of view, you know. So that's why you have like it's so drawn out, it's so well thought out, and it's so painful. But here's my question: how did he do it? Because Connor, you're saying he did it in pure daylight as well. It looks real.
Well, there's a number of it's not like
how they did that.
Well,
get him on the phone.
I mean, I know certain bits of it. Like, I know the way they got the hair to grow out was they had the hair out and they pulled it. They pulled it back and they reversed it,
like through like some sort of prosthetic.
Yeah, they pulled the hair back through it and then they reversed it, so it looks like it's growing back out.
Cool, yeah. I think
others are
the wonderful shot where he flips over, but like there's a nice edit there, and then we see him with the elongated body, but obviously his body's under the floor.
Is that shot supposed to be funny? That's the one thing I'm never sure, because when it cuts out, I always laugh.
It's hard to know, because it is though. Yeah, but I think there's an equally, like, because it's kind of disgusting but funny, and to me that's like Landis on the nose. Do you know what I mean? Like it kind of it works as either.
And it cuts to
both.
Mickey Mouse during that
Yes.
little toy of Mickey Mouse during the transformation.
I remember because I know originally they wanted the whole thing to be like one take, and it just wasn't really possible. But like, I think what works in that is it doesn't feel like the editing makes sense story wise. It doesn't just feel like we're just cutting to different chunks because these are the only bits we can do.
Yeah.
It just seemed to be as the transformation was going on. Now it's his face changing, so of course we're now close up on the face. You know what I mean?
And
like,
it's really tight as well because in Werewolf they show one shot, I think, or one or two most of that snout coming out. In the Howling, they drag that on for about 5 or 6 shots, and they keep going back to it and they keep showing it.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
But also in terms of just what you're saying about special effects, I think I wouldn't know exactly the terminology, but I know around that time they had a new sort of, whether it's silicone or latex, but they could stretch it.
Okay.
Which I don't think they were able. It was more flexible, so that's how they were able to force the thing, and it would
the snout.
Yeah,
even the feet growing is amazing.
Yeah,
like,
that's what I'm wondering about is the feet. Like, how do they change that? Because that just literally looks like someone's body changing before
Maybe
your eyes.
he's a werewolf.
I think that's what they did. They just cast a real werewolf and then
Nosferatu,
pretended like the special effects won the Oscar and then killed the werewolf guy, silver bullet style, and hid the evidence. And now they're coming to get me because I know.
Did you guys ever see that show? It's actually quite shite. Hemlock Grove.
No,
I watched the
heard of
first season and I banged my head so hard off the wall afterwards. I just couldn't go back because there was 2 more. I think.
Yeah, and I banged my head off the wall watching every single one of them.
But
actually,
you wanted like it was Netflix basically. It was one of their first original series, and they were Eli Roth.
Eli Roth, yeah,
trying to be kind of a Twin Peaksy, but also kind of a horror-y type thing and mysterious. But then you start getting that sense of I don't think you know what's happening. Like it was just random weirdness.
It was. I mean, but it. Yeah, I don't know why, but there was something in it that made me watch the full
There were bits,
3 seasons.
yeah.
But the werewolves in it now, it was again CG, so I wouldn't rely on it heavily. But he like the skin coming off, like he'd literally have to tear off his skin, and it was actually quite cool. And then he'd have to eat the skin afterwards.
Oh wow!
So he couldn't like.
Is that a similar effect to? Did you see Trick or Treat? And there's the werewolf sequence in that with Anna Paquin.
Yeah.
But the werewolves do. Their human skin is like their outer, like they
peel it off.
Peel it off. Isn't that?
Oh
kind
shit! I've seen that in something else actually as well. That sounds really familiar. Where there are werewolves underneath. Maybe that was in Werewolf Cop. Did anyone see Werewolf Cop?
No.
Werewolf Cop, there was a huge, for me anyway, there's a huge build-up for it. It has the coolest poster ever. It's what most film posters I think should look like. It's this really cool hand-drawn 70s style poster. And it's it's about a cop somewhere in America who starts turning into a werewolf and all of the
just
madness.
randomly.
And I think there's a reason for it. I think you find out the reason for it. It's some sort of like people like in a cult or something like that are trying to summon a werewolf and something like that. But it's just really poorly made and really disappointing, unfortunately.
Speaking of poorly made, disappointing,
are we going to talk about the Howling sequels? Or are we gonna...
Oh,
no, I think I know
just
what's
while
coming.
we're on American Werewolf in Paris.
Yeah. Now, Connor Darling, I believe someone has a sweet spot for this.
Yeah.
Take it away.
Yeah.
Is it the aliens of this franchise?
aliens?
As in like the sequel where they up the ante.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I was like, wait, I forgot the part where there was aliens.
Do you know the way films, I mean, do you know films have so dated? Like it's so 90s.
Yeah.
It looks like something like an MTV music video.
Yeah.
The opening credits were bored. Like I was bored by the opening credits, and I know that that's a bad sign.
Yeah,
I remember I saw that movie when I was a kid, and I'd never heard of American Werewolf in London. To my shame, I had never heard of it at all. And I watched this movie, American Werewolf in Paris, and when you're a kid and you see something that's crazy and that you're not supposed to watch, and you're just like, oh, that's cool, And then years later, I saw American Werewolf in London. And I was like, "Oh no, this is a fucking good movie. That's one of my favorite horror films of all time. Like, it's definitely in the top 7. Like, coined by Ali." And then I thought to myself, "Oh shit, was that movie American Werewolf in Paris like some sort of like teen movie remake of American Werewolf in London?" So a couple of years ago, I revisited it, thinking, "Oh, this is going to be a pile of shit," and I watched it, and I was like, oh yeah, this is great.
No,
Like,
no, it's not.
It is linked slightly, isn't it? It's something
the plot is basically the same, except it turns out there's this big, huge cult of werewolf guys who are like injecting people with like.
Yeah, but I think
werewolf
one of the
stuff.
girls in it or something is meant to be the daughter of one of the couples who get killed in the first one.
Okay,
I believe.
But like it's like what we said about American Werewolf. The two things, it's like it's a horror comedy. It's neither funny nor scary.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's like trying so hard to be funny. Like it has the two idiot friends, and basically
There's
plot,
no Jack.
They save.
But there's a guy like him who's his zombie friend.
He's not Jack.
He has a zombie friend. Yeah.
Jack.
But like they basically, I think Seraphine or the girl's name, whatever. She jumps off the Eiffel Tower at the start, and the guy saves her, right?
Yeah, he bungee jumps.
I forgot
about
right?
that. Yeah.
Then it cuts to the cliche scene, right, where they go on a date and they're in the cafe and it's all awkward and they've nothing to talk about, and it's like you just fucking jumped off the Eiffel Tower and saved her, and then his two idiot friends, and before that. He's trying to ask her on a date, and she's just going, "No, sorry." And then and they're just hounding her and like banging on her door and basically force her into a date.
Oh wow!
And then the two idiot friends are behind the menus, giggling and laughing, and it's just horrible.
That movie has a lot to explain for how I turned out. I can't defend it as like a good movie or that it's in anywhere in caliber with American Werewolf. I think it's just literally one of those things that I saw when I was so young that it's just like, it reminds me of happier times.
Aww. But that is actually something that I did notice about a lot of werewolf movies is they are all kind of are a piss take. It's very rare that you get an actual,
that annoys me.
Right?
Yeah.
It's very rare you get a werewolf movie that is like deep and dark and deals with like so one of the like my favorites is Curse of the Werewolf with Oliver Reed. And that's actually a werewolf movie that doesn't deal with wolfsbane or...
No. Give us a little synopsis of that.
Okay. Oliver Reed. Okay, it's amazing. So basically it starts off with this like mad marquis, like typical Hammer horror fashion, mad marquis... like a marquis? That's okay?
Like the Marquis de Sade? Yeah.
Like the Marquis de Sade, yeah.
Not a marquis.
Yeah, I know. I kept saying it and I was
There's
like...
bunting, there's everything.
Oh, I'd like to see a werewolf at a wedding. That'd be good.
That would be a great title. Werewolf at a wedding.
Does anyone object to
So
this
I married
union?
a werewolf.
Copyrighted.
And he's madly in love with this maid, basically. And he's a typical like hellfire type of guy. He has all of these bad cronies, and he just wants to have the ride with this maid, and she won't ride him. So she puts him in this cell with this jester that he put into this prison like years earlier, and he forgot about him basically. And this guy has since become a wolfen-like creature because he hasn't had any human contact. He's only able to eat the scraps off of bones, and he was a beggar to begin with, so he didn't have like society at the time and all that bollocks. So the Marquis throws this woman in with her, and for 1961, guys, there's a pretty horrific kind of rape. The
Hammer had a bit of a tendency to have,
which is why Hammer's great. No. Sorry, no, not like that. But that they weren't afraid to scare you. They weren't afraid to like go that far. I mean, they shouldn't have gone that far. But anyway, so in the terms of the movie, the beggar rapes this poor maid, and then he dies. And he's really horrifying. And then she escapes. She stabs the Marquis. She escapes, and she finds her way up with these other upper class people. And she has the baby on Christmas Day, I think, or Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. And the folklore is that if a baby is born on the day of Christ or something like that,
he will become a werewolf
out of wedlock. Yeah, they will become a demon, a spawn of Satan or whatever. And so Oliver Reed is born. The mother unfortunately dies, poor woman, and he's brought up in this upper class society, but he always has these werewolf tendencies, like, sheep die, and then we see him 15 years later, and he's sexy Oliver Reed, like, and he basically, love stops him if he realizes that the love of his life will stop him from.
It can break.
It can break the spell, but it is a very dark, and he dies at the end. Like there's a whole you know, like the villagers chasing the werewolf through the streets, and there's fire and pitchforks, and it's
Frankenstein style.
Yeah, and it's amazing. It's not a comedy at all.
Yeah.
There's no funny bits in it. It's quite dark.
Is he a hairy?
He's hairy. It's actually one of the makeup on it, because
mostly human, isn't it? Or am I remembering that wrong?
He's like. Do you remember the werewolf in Dracula? Like Gary.
The
Oldman.
sexy wolf scene.
Yeah, the sexy. Yeah,
bestiality moment. Yes.
It's kind of like that, where he does, because Oliver Reed has quite a striking face,
but he is surely, along with Jack Nicholson, people who are born to play
a werewolf.
I remember seeing the Jack Nicholson movie when I was a kid and thinking, was he only cast in that? Like, I was a child thinking, was he only cast in that because he's a hairy dude?
I think he wanted to make it for 10 years actually on Wolf.
He
but
did.
It's like, but no, because I think Oliver Reed, you're right. Like, he's perfect because he has that real brooding, even in the Cronenberg one, but he is a real brooding, like heavy set man, but just very confident, and he has that danger in his eyes.
He does.
And you're right, like without the comedy and everything, I love what they go for in the story wise now. Like the film, maybe I don't love it quite as much as you, but like I love the fact that there is this notion of, it doesn't matter how well he's brought up, he has these, you know, aggression and urges within him, which is that, you know, the masculinity thing that all these ones touch on. But the nice notion that actually it's one of those things that proper love and happiness could actually break that curse. So it's a damaged person who has serious issues, but that actually through finding the right person that could take it away, there's a nice idea there. You know what I mean? Like, instead of just you're doomed no matter what.
Exactly.
You know?
I mean, every curse has to have like something that will break it.
Yeah.
But no, it's a very dark, and it's a very, obviously because it's Hammer, it's beautifully atmospheric, and it's like, if you want to watch a great werewolf movie from before the times of special effects, I would seriously say to check that out.
It's a really interesting end, because normally the films don't, like, if you think there's a few films that end like the end of American Werewolf in London, where it is the face-off between the wolf and the person who loves the wolf. But usually the wolf is the one that wins out and goes to attack the person, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
You know what I mean? The love isn't strong enough.
The beast wins.
Yeah.
It's true. Actually, it's funny because like Hammer, bizarrely, like for all the Frankensteins and Draculas they only did one werewolf film, you know, and the same with Amicus, like, and they milked pretty much every other one they could to death. Like, I don't know why, it just seems to be a tricky one for people to get their head around, getting a story that
get it right.
Yeah,
because Hammer, like I was saying earlier, where you misinterpreted my loving of dark.
I didn't misinterpret. You said you thought it was great that they do rape.
Oh, here they go, folks.
I don't know. It's often. It's no. I
sorry,
no,
Ali. Carry on with the other point. I'm only minding you.
Okay. No, rape is like the most horrific thing. But like I think it is because werewolves are. It's very hard to make a serious werewolf movie, and Hammer were a production company, a studio that like. Their bread and butter was horror, and they didn't want. Well, they did. They ventured off into comedy later on, but like it's really hard to make a serious. Like I guess because you don't take it, you know, a lycanthrope, a shapeshifter. Thank you.
Ship shaper. My dad used to be ship shaper.
Like turning into a wolf, or it's kind of, it is laughable unless it's done right.
Very easy for it to become a funny moment.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, you know, even going through this, obviously we've spent our time looking up all the movies online and finding maybe some more obscure titles, and there's lots of popular ones, but still, like, I could, if you asked me to name like 50 vampire films, it'd probably be a lot easier than to name 50 you know, or zombie movies, or films about hauntings or that kind of thing. Like werewolves, there's not that many films, and
there's a lot of films. That's probably the thing, is people keep trying to do it, but they're all, like you said, you've literally. I don't think apart from An American Werewolf in London, you've actually liked any of the movies you watch.
Like, I mean,
like Dogs.
I suppose. Dog Soldiers, Ginger Snaps, and American Werewolf in London are probably my 3 favorite werewolf movies, just off the top of my head. But like, even in the past 10 years, like, how many werewolf movies like that were actually, like, you know, in the mainstream? Like, I'm sure there's been plenty of, like, you know, micro budget B movie kind of things.
Tons in the mainstream because you've got like 6 Twilight films. You've how many Underworld ones? 5 now or something like that.
There's werewolves. There's werewolves in Twilight. Like, but is that a werewolf movie? I think that's a vampire movie that has werewolves in it.
Well, no, see, because like that,
I just think it's a shite movie.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to do my little Twilight rant here. Okay, for a second, I'm going to put you all on your plate because, like,
you know what? It's actually, I do probably need to do this because I like everyone else, go on about how shitty Twilight is and have not fucking
Yeah,
seen
no,
it.
it's weird because
so-
I
I've
like
watched
the
them
first
all.
one.
Yeah,
The
that's what I want to
atmosphere-
say. The
atmosphere
first
in
one
the
is
first
a
one is
genuine,
good.
like,
Okay, guys, I
get-
love them all. No, haven't seen it.
but I know people listening to the podcast are kind of going like, it is so popular to just despise Twilight, and I
exactly,
don't I don't blame people for not liking it. It is a very teenagery love story. I think the story falls apart as those films go on, but the first one for me, if I saw that when I was a teenager, I think would work great. I think it nails that kind of frustration of being a teenager and the awkwardness and not feeling like you fit in and everything like that. And I just think, because I think that's what Catherine Hardwicke was going for in that one. Now, the stories and how that develops, I think, is pretty silly as it goes on in the series. But it's so easy to kind of shit on it. And then I still hear people defending stuff like Teen Wolf. Or other,
But can I just-
which are not like, it's,
I'll
again,
defend
I
Teen
like,
Wolf.
yeah,
I'll
but we like
stand
those
with
films
you,
because they were there when we were young. Do you know what I
know,
mean?
because, like, actually-
and we're just really harsh on newer ones because
But-
they're not from our time period.
But like, I don't think that's a good reason to say that it's. I mean, obviously it's your
go.
opinion, but like, I was a teenager. Well, I technically was still a teenager when they came out. I was
a teenage
18.
werewolf.
Hey, you still
The
are.
film we're going to talk about after
and
this.
and that awkwardness of being a teenager is not what being a vampire or a werewolf is about.
No, but like in
Like,
the
it's,
same.
and also I think it's because I actually read the book. My dad went
Okay, I haven't-
to Hot
yeah.
Topic and he saw a hoodie and he asked the person in Hot Topic. This was when I was again a child. And he brought me back the books before the movies were released because you got the free box set of the books with this hoodie
Twilight.
from Hot Topic. Yeah,
The
So-
Mormons.
the Mormons, because they are. It
They
is.
are,
It
yeah.
was,
It's a Mormon analogy.
And
Oh, yeah.
I read the first book and I thought I was like, this is okay. It's like, it's a vampire novel, blah blah blah. But it was very teenagery. And then when I saw the movie, I loved the atmosphere. I thought the grading on it, like it is a beautiful film to watch. But it's like it's just so.
Moody.
Oh yeah, it's like
Okay.
it's not. I don't think it shits
sure,
all over
that's-
vampires. It shits all over werewolves.
I think Underworld does that as badly though. Like
Well,
I find the
un-
like I couldn't, at least with Twilight I know what happened. I had to give up on the Underworld films because I just didn't know what was going on.
I
I don't
agree
know
with
whether
you.
it's because it made no sense or I kept tuning out.
I think there's
and I
another
love
one
the
of those
look
coming
of that.
out
There
now.
is.
There
There's a
yeah.
new one. Yeah,
Like
but
when I saw
love.
the poster for that, you're thinking looks like the Crow in the Matrix.
Yeah.
And Kate Beckinsale looks amazing. You're kind of going, I'm down for a bit of
And
fun.
Michael Sheen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
He's
know.
a great werewolf though.
It's
but
just-
but yeah, let's
I was a teenage werewolf.
Yes. Did anyone else see this movie?
No,
no, is this the 1956
Yeah,
one?
yeah. It's 19. Let me have a look.
That is, after this, I would recommend checking that out.
yeah.
Amazing, yeah.
Absolutely.
As in,
So
like,
have you seen it?
I watched it last night.
Oh, okay, yeah. Because
is this in an ironic liking now? Or
no.
Okay.
Like a Teenage Werewolf. Like this was one of the first ones I saw, probably again when I was a kid. Along with throwing a tantrum to watch a Teen Wolf.
Yeah.
It's probably the only thing I ever threw a tantrum to watch.
Teen Wolf,
and
Michael
the
J.
final
Fox.
It was
episode
amazing.
of Saved by the Bell, where Zach and Kelly went to the prom.
Why did you have to throw a tantrum
Because I
to
wasn't
watch
allowed
it?
to watch these things.
Weren't they
you know?
dressed as
Wow.
Beauty and the Beast at that prom?
No. Oh.
As a werewolf.
We are not doing a
Beast.
Saved by the
Anyway,
Bell.
anyway, I'm off topic here. But what? Basically, the story of a teenage werewolf is about. He's kind of this. Martin Landon is the actor, and he's kind of a James Dean type
I think I have
character.
seen this.
And he's got real anger issues. Like he flips the lid whenever anybody says anything to him, and it opens with this
Fight scene.
fight scene.
Oh, it's brilliant.
But like, I mean, the first thing I say about the film is it's really well shot.
Really well
and,
shot.
And the staging and the way they move the characters around. And it's something you don't see in a lot of movies. So just even as a film itself,
Yeah.
I thought it was great. Having seen a lot of the films, the other Wolf films where the character was a kind of a bit of a pushover and it was about the animal inside. This was like the guy was I loved seeing the opposite of that, which is this guy with real anger problems. And the basic story is that he's getting in trouble with the cops a lot. So they reckon one of the ways to help him out is this kind of is it a doctor?
To send him to like a shrink who practices hypnotism, or as they would have called them in the 50s, a head shrinker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they kind of use him as a guinea pig.
Yeah.
But it's just, I just thought it really...
And it brings out his werewolf side. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Again, I just thought he was a brilliant character. And
So was he already really angry and violent before he got like? He
Yeah,
gets
the
bitten,
opening
is it, or-
scene
It
is
starts with
like,
him in a fight
he
where-
starts
But
in
is
a
that
fight.
what gets him bitten, or like is
He
it?
never gets.
Oh no, he never gets
doesn't.
bitten.
He doesn't.
No.
So he just naturally is a werewolf.
That's the part where I felt it. I thought like because they said oh we're gonna send you to this shrink and he resists it. He doesn't want to do it. But then like there's this scene where him and all his mates are all having the crack at like some party and they're all playing pranks on each other and that's all a bit of fun. And then someone plays a prank on him and he goes to town on this guy and it's like okay shit no you need to get help. So he goes. And then the doctor turns out to be this kind of like evil scientist kind of guy, which is where I thought it was almost kind of unnecessary for that to happen. I thought it was going to be he hypnotized him and then it like unleashed his like, inner kind of werewolf. Because the way people say with like doing hypnotism or like messing with like mind altering drugs and stuff.
Ayahuasca and
It
stuff,
can,
yeah.
it can
Opening a door somewhere.
it can open a door.
Yeah.
It can unleash your demons kind of thing. But in this, it was like this doctor and he was like, oh, I'm going to inject him with this stuff and bring him back to his caveman state and all, so like I'm not saying it was a bad movie because I really enjoyed it, but I just thought that element of it,
it does. That bit is probably a little hokey, but but overall it's pretty well grounded in terms of the other characters and his girlfriend and the parents and,
and like the way you were saying about things being staged, like even in that fight scene, it's one of the few movies, and it's such a basic thing, but that thing of a fight scene where you've got these like POV shots of fists heading towards the camera and stuff. There's a really nice, really fast cut sequence of a couple of those things at the start that just kind of jolts you into oh holy shit, I'm watching like a movie here. I gotta pay
especially
attention.
for a film at that time as well.
Totally. And then there's this great sequence where he turns into the wolf and he's like an upright guy with his jeans and his shirt and he's just got like wolf hair and stuff like that, so he doesn't look like a dog. But there's this cool thing where there's this gymnast and she's like practicing on one of those like table thingies that the gymnasts work on, and she's like hanging upside down. She's hanging upside down.
But the way that scene starts as well is him walking through school and you just see her shadow reflected on the wall.
Oh,
and
nice.
what I mean
I
is
love
it's extremely
shadows.
visual. Like,
Yeah.
you just see her
Yeah.
I'll have
kind
to
of
check this out. It
exercising.
sounds good.
Yeah.
And there's this great thing where she's upside down and you see a shot of her so her head is upside down and the reverse is the upside down shot of the werewolf coming towards her. And it's just it's really like it's a great example of just using what you have, your camera angles and your actors to provide the action and the scares as opposed to having to rely on a big load of CGI or gore or anything like that, and there's a really cool song where this guy sings in the middle of it. There's like a musical number where he sings in the club, and I want Stephen to use that as the opening for this. Or there's probably something better. But but just some kind of trivia on that film. Like, I mean, I was a teenage werewolf. That was the first film to use that kind of line. I was a teenage something,
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it inspired.
It was originally called A Teenage Werewolf, and then
Yes.
somebody added in that I was.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like a drive-through movie. So this is like the exact type of movie people would have went to see like at the drive-through, and it was made for $150,000, and it made $2 million. So that like
in the 50s.
In the 50s,
Yeah,
like,
that's a lot of money.
huge money, and it inspired like the company to just start churning out loads of things. I was a teenage Frankenstein, How to Make a Monster,
Blood Monster, that wasn't very
same
good,
director,
really.
and Blood of Dracula.
Oh yeah.
Blood of Dracula.
Blood
Blood of
Dracula,
Dracula.
is that not the Andy
That's a
Warhol
Hammer
one?
horror.
No, Blood of Dracula, is that not the Andy Warhol one with Flesh for Frankenstein?
No, Blood of Dracula is the second Hammer horror after. So it's like Christopher Lee dies, and then you see his body like turning into dust at the start of the movie, and they scoop all the dust up, and then they add water to it and drink it, and then Dracula
What's
comes
the
back.
Andy Warhol? I believe you on that. 'Cause I know it's Flesh for Frankenstein, and there was another one. He did a Dracula one. Well, he didn't, obviously, Andy Warhol produced them, he didn't direct them, but I don't know, but definitely that's on my list now to
it's
to give
definitely
that
worth
a
Yeah,
checking out.
I'll
Yeah,
check it.
yeah.
And again, it's so that was when was that? 1950.
late 50s. Is it?
57.
57. So we went from like 1941 with Wolfman and not being a very scary movie. But it did have it. I like the backdrops and all of that because it was very German expressionist with the dead trees and the gnarled. And then we have 1957.
Seven, yeah.
And we have again camera angles. They're getting more involved. Then we have 1961 where we have a very dark Hammer horror werewolf movie. Then we have the 70s.
Beast Must Die was 74. And then I think there's a few werewolf ones in the 80s, weren't they? Well, like I know because I want to talk about Wolf and
Wolf and
I've not
let's
seen
talk
it,
about
so
Wolf
I want to hear you guys talk about it.
I mean, definitely Wolf. I mean, for me, was the big surprise. As in, man, I've never heard this film.
Never
this
heard
is always
it.
really because I was surprised because I remember when I said it to you guys, there didn't seem to be so much kind of like excitement about it. I was kind of going like that was, you know, it made me kind of sad when I was thinking. I was watching it again the other day because I have it on DVD, and it reminded me that the only reason I saw a lot of these films were places like Channel 4 that used to show these films late at night.
Yeah.
So you know, you kind of wait up and you wouldn't even know what you were going to see.
Yeah.
And like it was such an amazing thing to discover these films because it's not like Wolfen's not a perfect film, but there's just they don't make them like that anymore because it's actually interesting. Like it's much more about the whole story. So like
It's
to
a
give
detective
you
kind of story.
the very basic synopsis is I can't remember the Van der Beers or
Van der Veer.
Van der Veers, like a very rich couple basically coming home in a limousine after a ball or some kind of a charity fundraiser.
It's like a sod turning ceremony.
That's what it was. Sorry, the ground laying.
They're basically
sod turning.
The harvest.
Well, that's what they call it in Ireland. It's basically if they're going to start
a big development.
A big development, so, you know, they turn and everyone claps.
And so they decide to get out and walk their dog in a ghetto area, and they are violently killed. You know, and there's a bit of gore in this film as well in parts, like hands flying off.
Is it Irish? Sorry.
No, American.
No. Oh,
filmed in New York, and like what's amazing
in the 80s.
Yeah, so but the massive like
so cool.
Because they were literally just demolishing chunks in New York because it was just falling to pieces. And so the settings they have are just spectacular. Like it looks like a war zone.
Opening shot, like a slow motion building being demolished. The building falls and reveals this like church behind it.
There's a church on its own and the rest is just rubble for blocks.
Amazing.
So cool.
But it just, and so it's the whole point is this couple get killed at the beginning and they call in Albert Finney of Big
amazing.
Fish and
amazing.
the Bourne films.
I love Albert Finney.
He's wonderful. Like,
Not
is
from the
his
Bourne
first
films,
big one.
though, but
Actually, and it was Dustin Hoffman really wanted the lead role, and the director refused. He wanted Albert Finney instead.
Because he was his favorite actor.
Wow.
It's one of the only big things that Dustin Hoffman was turned down for at that time in his
but
career.
Albert Finney's more dark. I mean, Dustin Hoffman.
He is, and
I
love Hoffman.
I haven't read the book, but like, so basically, he's trying to investigate it, and to cut a long story short, it kind of it becomes apparent that it's connected to. We don't call them Indians, Native American people who are living there and their traditions and whether people could be shape-shifting or not. And whether there's an element of
their territory's kind of been taken over.
Exactly,
isn't it?
They've well, see, there's a really nice notion because the whole point, so they've been there for a long time since the beginning of New York, and they feed off people. What I love is I love that detail that they don't eat the diseased parts of people. So if someone has like a cancerous liver, they don't like, as in somehow they know better about everything. But the whole their territory's been encroached upon and destroyed, and so you're forcing them to actually go and kill further afield because they're losing their things. And there's a kind of a nice notion that these guys have always been here killing people, but no one cared because they were poor people.
Right.
You know,
so now that the ghettos are totally demolished, as we see in the start, they're moving on to the rich.
So it's not like that the wolves are a problem now. It's the fact that it's only a problem now because it's affecting the middle class upwards.
So it's a problem with gentrification is the message that they're getting across.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And it's trying to kill. So there's really nice touches on that. But like what I love about it is they use real wolves. Now, that's a hard thing to do. And I don't know whether you guys think that works or not, but like, because like, wolves are very hard to train supposedly and you can't. But I think they do incredibly well with this because wolves look fantastic, you know. They have the wolf vision kind of thing as well, which before Predator as well, it has a similar type.
First film to use that for a killer's POV.
Yeah, it's funny because I kind of couldn't figure out. It's not really the same as Predator. It looks like it's daytime stuff they've shot and kind of processed.
I mean, it's one of those things where the logic of it took, and I'm not sure if there is a total logic to it because sometimes the POV, it's obviously jumping from different because it's different wolves. But also sometimes it'll be a close up of the person's face, and so it's not. Do you know the way Jaws is very clear? It's like this is what they.
So we see from the wolves, we don't actually see an actual wolf, I'd say, until halfway or maybe 2/3 way through. We just see their vision.
So you see it from like
kind of like
ground.
And it looks kind of like what you'd imagine Predator, very colourful and stuff, and it's racing along the ground and stalking people and killing them. But when you see the wolves, like there's just something powerful about seeing a close up of a wolf's eyes staring.
Were you saying something about how they had to shoot it with
snipers?
The snipers,
they had
snipers up on the roofs to try and make sure that none of them escaped because they had a ton of wolves, which is funny because you don't see a ton of wolves in the film, but that's what, like, it's kind of weird for me. This guy directed 4 other films and they're all about Woodstock. Okay, and he made this
Woodstock.
They're like documentaries about Woodstock.
Wow.
And then he went and he made this film.
It's based on a book, isn't it?
Yeah, it's based on a book which I haven't read, but I think it's taken certain liberties, but you know, that's there. And he turned in a 4.5-hour version of it. and he just got fired. And they sent him off, and then they finished it themselves.
There's a few director credits on IMDb.
Is there?
Isn't there?
Yeah, there is. There's 2 or 3. The producers kind of came in and finished it off. But I hadn't really thought about that until I watched it this time. And there are, you could either excuse them as interesting artistic transitions, but like there are bits where it just chunks into the middle of another scene, and when you try and pull it apart, like. There's clearly chunks of this film missing. There's a bit where like they're cops just investigating something, and suddenly Albert Finney and his mate have got sniper rifles walking around New York, and they're just hanging around in buildings pointing sniper rifles down at the ground, like, you know, and it just doesn't quite ring true. Or there's bits where it cuts from one area to another and you're not even sure where it is. Towards the end when they go back to the Vanda or whatever place with all the mirrors, he cuts from a pub with a load of Native American people to just him sitting there, and we're not quite sure why he's even there. But visually, it's very like there's some stunning shots in that.
That's the thing that jumped out at me. The opening sequence. There's this really cool shot where the camera moves along a bridge, and just the colors of everything. Absolutely
some of that
beautiful
stuff up on the Brooklyn Bridge or whatever.
Gorgeous.
Crazy because he
Lots
actually
of
go up
Steadicam
to the
stuff
top
as well.
We're
talking 1981 too, so there wasn't that much Steadicam going on at that time. But the DOP on that film, I think his name is Jerry Fisher, I think his name is. And I was looking through his filmography and I was like, have I seen any of his other stuff? And he also shot a film from the 80s, which is, I think, one of the most beautiful looking films of the 80s. Not a great film, the original Highlander.
Okay.
I love Highlander.
I saw it recently in Grindhouse, Dublin, the Lighthouse.
Oh, amazing.
And
it doesn't hold up quite
it's
the way
like
you
the
remember.
main guy, and he's just ridiculous.
Christopher Lambert.
He's amazing. He's smoking hot as well. Oh my god.
He's the funniest looking person.
No, he's not. Excuse me. Highlander he's one of my childhood.
Okay, well, I'll take your word over mine.
Do you know?
But it's beautifully shot. Highlander. It's
But the other film that kind of Wolfen sort of reminded me of it purely because it captures that same vibe of New York. You know, that gritty was Q the Winged Serpent in the sense.
I found Q very slow.
Yeah, but I'm more. It's more the atmosphere of New York.
Yes,
and really. Really authentic performances. Like it's not like actors. Do you know what I mean? It feels like they grab people off the street.
It was more like in the French Connection. Yeah, like Albert Finney in it does feel like a guy who's worked his whole life, and he's
not like an actor.
No, he's not performing this. Like he just looks wrecked.
And he's so deadpan that there's lots of kind of humor between him and the girl who comes in. The expert.
Yeah, she's brilliant as well.
They're both great, but a lot of that stuff, like, you know, you need that kind of ear for sarcasm to know that they're joking about stuff, you know.
And do you think, because like another for me, definitely, I don't want to give away the finale if Ali hasn't seen it, but like
to see it.
There was an emotional resonance there. Like there's a final scene with him face off between Albert Finney and a wolf, kind of, and there's just a moment where they both kind of consider each other, and I just thought it was wonderful because, again, instead of having like, you know, it's actually not about the violence. It's actually almost about a need to sort of respect and allow each species, whatever, to have their own sort of space and traditions. And that was just really, but you know, there's some other stuff that happens after that. But I did feel that, like, I thought that actually worked, and that's not an easy thing to pull off. And I think a lot of these films buckle it at the end by trying to just have a big
two werewolves fight each other.
Well, exactly. Like it's just it's definitely different than the other ones you've watched, and if you haven't seen it, I would say it's a definite must.
Yeah, no, for sure. Oh,
sorry,
it's been a while since I've seen Ginger Snaps.
Well,
I watched Ginger Snaps 2 for this.
Oh yeah, because
I hadn't.
I mean, I'd seen the first Ginger Snaps, which I loved, but
amazing.
Yeah,
I love it.
Like it definitely is in the top.
One of the things I was thinking recently about the Ginger Snaps was I just surprised at how like I suppose if you're a horror fan, you're gonna have at least heard of Ginger Snaps, but I just found that was a film that I had to really seek out. Like, you know, I don't know.
That's what makes me sad.
Was it popular when it came out?
The love of Ginger Snaps is in the community. Ginger Snaps is held in such high regard, and yet it's not. I don't think it made a lot of money. The sequels definitely didn't.
Like I'd never heard of the sequels.
I'd never heard of the
original.
I'd never heard of the original, really, and I don't think if I asked many of my friends, "Oh, what do you think of Ginger Snaps?" I don't think many of them have even
it's
heard
a real
of it.
underground type of it's a horror movie for horror fans more so.
And you know, like from the opening scene of just them with their fake photographs of the deaths, like you just know it's just, you know, when a film just from the beginning kind of goes, we got this, guys. It's wonderful because, again, it's a female-led film.
Yes,
and it deals with the whole puberty type stuff and everything, but it doesn't feel like it's just a cheap well, we're just doing werewolves with girls.
It's not like Teeth or anything. It's not a
Yeah.
comedy. It's a female driven like empowerment film. It's fantastic.
And you just, I don't think I could name many other female driven werewolf movies like off the top of my head.
No, but even
what I
horror
mean?
films that it's just, it's very rare
Like,
that
it's usually more like
It's a valid point. There's
Yeah.
literally none.
yeah.
None.
But and usually they're just the people being subjected to violence as opposed to actually driving
Exactly.
the story.
Yeah,
exactly.
You know, and both these girls, like, you know, and I think Isabel, what's her name, or Catherine?
Is it Catherine Isabel?
I think it's something like
Yeah,
that. She
yeah,
went
yeah.
from American Mary as well. Like I think she's
Is she
wonderful. in the
Ginger
first
or
one.
the
Ginger.
Yeah.
But it's just because you know what, they're real teens as well, which I liked.
Absolutely.
They looked like teenagers. They weren't 24-year-old college students pretending to be teenagers. You just you believed their world. You
Yeah,
believed
yeah.
their hatred, and even they're in school and stuff being picked on by other people and everything. That was a much closer to how that feels as opposed to in American films, particularly when you get that high school type shot. It's a cliche that exists only in the film world, the way they kind of do it. But I loved it, and I love the way they bring it in. I haven't seen the second one in years, so I don't know. That's
Is it the same girls?
Well, because without spoiling it, the
Yeah.
girl's gone after the first one, right? Ginger's gone.
She's in it.
That's
yeah,
what,
as
yeah.
a dead ghost,
Yeah,
is she not?
yeah.
A vision, like,
Oh.
yeah.
Yeah, so it really follows.
But she's on the cover. Is she not on the poster?
She's. I mean, she's
Because
in
I've only
it-
seen the poster for
Yeah,
it.
she's
Ginger
in it
snaps
as
back.
kind of yeah.
And that's the third one.
The third one.
There's
Second one is Ginger
Unleashed.
snaps to Unleashed.
Yeah. I mean, this time they use kind of the allegory of drug
Yeah.
taking. So she's in a basically
This,
in a
the younger
rehab.
sister is trying to cope with it.
Bridget.
Right.
So it kind of follows her. She's been bitten at the end of the first one.
Yeah.
So she's basically using this drug, like the wolfsbane,
Yeah.
whatever
Yeah.
drug,
Wolfsbane.
to suppress her transforming. So she's basically put into this rehab facility, and her drugs are taken away from her. So she doesn't. So they think she's craving the drug, but really she just wants to not turn into a wolf and kill everyone. And then there's also this idea that this other wolf is tracking her down, and you think it's trying to kill her, but then you realize later it's going to trying to mate with her. And but the real surprise as well was that other character, Ghost.
Oh, yeah,
who's her friend, is kind of a little
yeah.
girl in the rehab, and I thought she was brilliant.
She was really good.
Is she a ghost or her name's Ghost?
No, her name's Ghost,
Okay.
and she's basically she's
Jack?
there because her grandmother was has severe burns, and so she's there with her. And then there's a scene later where she also tells Bridget, who's the werewolf, that she's been abused by one of the guys. But it turns out the girl is lying,
Yeah.
and she's not been at all. And she was responsible for burning the grandmother as well.
Amazing.
So it's just a great character.
At the
like,
end,
And she's
as
a
well,
child,
it's just
is she?
like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
What happens in the second one again? Spoiler alert.
She
She basically traps the wolf
traps
in
the
the,
wolf,
basement.
because she keeps saying that she does keep saying at the start, like, you know,
She's a pyromaniac, is she?
what is she saying? Is she saying like she wants to have her like as a pet or something like that?
Something like
She's real kind of like, you know, like reads comic books and about werewolves.
books.
Comic books. Yeah. Yeah, she reads a lot of comic books and about werewolves, and then she's all like, you know, talking to Bridget about being a werewolf, and then at the end she like keeps her as a pet, and it's really dark ending. You're just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I loved it. I didn't like the third one. I
Yeah, I actually, because I remember
There's
I
a
told you the
third
third one was
one.
kind of okay.
Snaps back.
Yeah, it's a prequel. I remembered liking that a little bit more. There's still bits I thought were kind of interesting in it, but yeah. So they shot 2 and 3 back to back.
Right.
As
I was
kind
thinking
of was
because
the
when I
trend at
came
the
to 3,
time.
I was like, how are they still so young? Like,
Yeah. And so yeah, I think the first one was like 2000, 2001, and the 2 and 3 were 2004.
okay.
But I don't know whether it was partly out of the desire to get Ginger back into the pictures or not, but it's like it's hundreds of years beforehand. It's like frontier times, but it's the 2 girls playing the same characters.
Oh.
Basically, they're sisters.
Oh, wow.
And so they find like they're wandering through this, and it's beautiful looking film. I have to admit, like as they're wandering through this like stunning kind of snowy scenery, and they find this fort, and they come in, they realize the fort's been attacked by werewolves, and the story kind of evolves from there. And it's kind of bizarre having these girls who are kind of almost still using slightly modern language in part. But there is a kind of an implication. The bit I like about it is there's an indication that maybe the whole point of Ginger Snaps, the first one, and everything, is this bond between these sisters is no matter what, they're together. And it's the same in the beginning. And I kind of feel that what they were going for, or I think what they were going for, is that implication of that, like, it's almost whether you repeat these, like, whether they're souls or whatever it is, but that bond between them has always been that strong, and that they're always destined to I don't know, have to go through this kind of destruction together.
Yeah.
Because it's that curse that keeps seeming to following them. And as if so in different lives, they're still going to be there. They're still going to be sisters. They'll still do anything for each other, and it'll just keep destroying them. Because there's kind of a prophecy in the third one as well about how kill the boy or you know.
And they kind of bring in a bit of the Wendigo Native American myth again about where the werewolf came from.
Right.
But the Wendigo is a cannibal.
Is it? I don't actually know what that myth is. I know it was brought up in.
Yeah, no,
either
it's
that
mentioned
film
in
or
it.
Wolfen. Yeah.
Wendigo is the like Indian, like for literally man who eats flesh.
But is it supposed to be just a normal human? It is meant to be a creature, kind of like a Bigfoot type
Is
creature.
it hairy
you know,
man
or-
who eats flesh?
No, it's if
just
you eat another man's flesh, you'll gain their soul and their essence.
Okay.
So they don't believe in it as a supernatural
what I do.
creature. It's actually just...
a Wendigo is a cursed man. It's but it's not a werewolf.
I'm dying to watch it.
Because
Spoiling
watch
going to
Ravenous.
different things, but Larry Fessenden's Wendigo and Last Winter. Have you ever seen them?
No.
Really good films. Definitely worth watching. They're kind of another one like Ginger Snaps that sort of just disappeared.
What's it called? Sorry,
Wendigo is the first one, and then Last Winter is kind of a sequel. The two tie together. But Larry Fessenden, you'd know him as an actor. He's in a lot of films. He's produced a lot. He's produced all of Ty West stuff, or he's helped him out a lot with like House of the Devil and stuff like that. But a good director in his own right. But that's definitely one to kind of dig out. But no, I just like with the Ginger Snaps ones. Yeah, I don't know how hard it is to find. I guess a lot of people probably are downloading them, but like it's if you haven't seen them, definitely the first one. I think there's no question you got to see it.
Can I just bring where'd y'all get Wolfen?
I have it on DVD. I'll give it a lend to you when you give back the other ones I've lent you.
Jesus, I forgot about them until just now.
But I'll give you a loan of it.
Amazing.
But I'd love to see a director's cut of like I don't know if the Wolfen stuff
4 hour
exists or
one.
not. But like, and I'm sure that 4.5 hour film wasn't good. But there's probably an extra maybe 20 minutes or so that could actually.
There's
expand
probably
on
a
that
couple
story.
of different movies within that 4
And
hours.
you wonder though, like sorry, before you go into that, Connor, like how the fuck did they let him film a 4.5 hour film? Do you know what I mean? Like at some point, someone's got to go. Like this is gonna. I know first cuts are always long, but
Michael Bay shot, what was it? It was like 6 or 7 hours for the last Jack Rayner Transformers. It was like a 6 or 7 hour film, and that's why poor Jack Rayner's not in half of it because they had to cut out like a lot of it.
Sure, even I remember hearing like in that book Easy Riders and Raging Bulls.
It's a great book. Great book.
The first cut of Easy Rider was something like 3 hours or 6 hours long, something like that.
They were off their nuts.
That scene in the cemetery is actually they're on drugs.
It has to be this, and they brought in another editor to cut it down to like 2 hours or something. And he famously said they turned my movie into a fucking sitcom. But sometimes it's for the better. Sometimes maybe not so much. Sometimes it just gets hacked apart and things don't make sense. Like,
it has to be reasonable. Like obviously that's a ridiculously long time, and I'm sure it's not a good film. But it's just like you were saying, you can kind of see when you're watching Wolfen, especially if you've seen it a couple of times, there are just kind of leaps between bits, and you just be curious to know what was that, or could that be just a little bit kind of smoothed
Sometimes
out
it sticks out like a sore thumb. Sometimes you don't notice it as much.
Yeah.
But like even from just looking at IMDb, I remember seeing for Wolfen, it had like 3 director titles, and 2 of them it said were uncredited, I think.
Okay.
And
he kept the director's credit on it. Like,
and then it had like 7 writer credits. And on films, on IMDb, or even at the start of a film, when you start seeing story by, screenplay by, additional screenplay by, you start seeing all these credits, it's usually a red flag. There's something went on there. Who knows what it was? Maybe it was called for, but maybe there was.
He may have been used. I don't know, but like the film, there's a lot of interesting stuff in there. Actually, on the Ginger Snaps thing before we move on, what I thought was interesting about that is different director for each of them.
Yeah.
Okay,
because you kind of thought, especially the first 2, it seems odd to me that he didn't stick. With it,
and the directors of each of them didn't really do much.
No,
else,
the main guy did the TV show Orphan Black.
He
created that and directs a good chunk of it. But they went on to virtually nothing, which is
actually
heartbreaking because like they're the kind of guys I feel I'd like to see more movies from.
I mean, especially the first 2. Anyway,
Ginger Snaps is great. Yeah.
So what else did we watch?
Ali Horror.
Dog Soldiers.
Hold on.
So, obviously, I already talked about this movie in my top 7.
What movie is this?
AKA top 5. Dog Soldiers.
And who directed that?
Neil Marshall.
Neil Marshall. Anyone around this table heard of a Neil Marshall film?
2002. 2002.
Ali, tell us about Dog Soldiers.
Okay, so it is not only one of the greatest horror movies of all time, in my personal opinion, it is the best werewolf movie because it is batshit fucking scary. And it's just got great atmosphere. It's set in Scotland, not England. It's got Liam Cunningham, it's got Sean Pertwee, it's got Kevin McKidd. I still don't know who plays Spoon, but I love Spoon, the character of Spoon. Freaking amazing. So basically it's about this army SWAT team, I guess, who go up into the Scottish Hills.
They're on a training mission.
They're on training, yeah. So they go up into the Scottish Hills to do some training. They basically get involved in Liam Cunningham's experiment, which
Special
basically
ops type of thing.
yeah, they're out to check up on the werewolf population that they're basically, you know, have created in the Scottish Hills. And they just get it's set in a house. They're stuck in a house, and it's all about trying to escape, kill all these werewolves. And it's so simple and it's so freaking amazing. There's the scene at the start where they're all running away from what they, at this point, we just see, you know, long hands, like these silhouettes,
quick shots.
like they're just amazing. And your man runs into a
the
branch, which is a freaking fantastic death.
Sausages.
Oh my god, my favorite. That was in it was in From the Dark. I think there was something to do with sausages, and when I read that line, I was like, "Duck soldiers!"
So basically, it's the guy who runs it. Like he impales himself and rips himself wide open.
No,
no.
It's Sean Pertwee, the Sarge. So you literally, again, you don't see the werewolf yet. You just see that long arm, and it just comes and it swipes his stomach right open.
Yeah,
and his guts fall out, and it's. Like, I mean, it is. You can see that it's a pack that they have stuck on, but I don't care. I literally don't care.
Good,
it's fantastic. It's amazing. And then he doesn't say the sausages then. Until
but the guy's trying to put it back
sausages,
in.
They don't fit. Anybody for sausages.
He's trying to put it back in. He's like, oh, it's not gonna fit. It's like, of course they're gonna fit.
And because he's super drunk up on the bed, like he's drinking he's drinking
the
a bottle of
dog
whiskey.
as well is pulling
He's pulling at the bandages, and he gets stuck back together with super glue. And
they need to do some, like Sean Pertwee. He's in the bed, and they're worried. They need to like stitch him up, but he's awake, so they have to knock him out. So his
punch me again.
His colleague punches him, and he falls like down, and then he just hops back up and he goes, "You call that a punch, you pussy?" And then he hits him again.
And he just hits him. It's fantastic. Like, the acting in it is just fantastic. I'm really sorry, I don't remember the name of the female actress.
She's great in it though.
She
as well.
is phenomenal. Again, like I said in the first podcast, that line, "It's just that time of the month." Perfect transition. And you don't actually ever get to see one of the werewolves do a full on. Well, you kind of do with Liam Cunningham. It's more in the eyes.
Yeah, I'm glad though. They skipped the
but you
transformation.
don't
for the
need to
better.
see it.
Yeah.
And as well, when you do see the werewolves again, it's mostly silhouettes, apart from maybe the
It's coming through the window. You get a pretty good look.
It kind of
reminds
me, but it reminded me of his Aliens in that sense
Yeah.
of the way the werewolves were portrayed as this pack coming in.
Yeah.
But you're
Yeah.
just seeing flashes of them.
That's true though. You never really get to see werewolves working as a pack anywhere
No.
else, do you? And that is like, it's the wolf thing. But yeah, it's weird because like, when I talk about the quick cuts is how you see it for most of the earlier on thing, that sounds like the kind of more modern Hollywood thing where it's just, we don't even know what we're seeing and it's really irritating. This is properly controlled quick cuts where you do see enough to see the shape of it. Like,
it's not cheap. They're trying to pull the wool over your eyes like in other movies. It's like
slowly
it adds to the
revealing.
effect.
Yeah. And but I as well.
they look amazing.
They are
So
the
basically
best
animatronic
werewolves.
heads with bodysuits with stilts. And I just think
The
that
best
nailed
werewolf.
it.
Wait,
Like,
animatronic heads.
Yeah.
So you have the mouth and eyes and stuff moving. Yeah.
Then bodysuits, which were kind of skin tight for the rest, with a bit of hair in it, and then they had stilts for their feet to make them so obnoxiously tall.
Yeah.
And is there a person in that?
Yeah.
Oh,
there's a person in
right,
bodysuit.
okay,
So
yeah.
that's why they have a real movement to them.
Okay.
But I
Yeah.
think the problem you have in a normal werewolf film is where it's why they use the stilts in this one is the people end up looking too chunky.
Yeah.
When you bring in the stilts, you elongate them, and so it makes them look
Proportionate,
slimmer.
like,
and that's
yeah.
where the really tight bodysuits, as opposed to kind of muscular suits,
Yeah.
kind of really working. Because I
Cool.
think they were kind of like dancers or acrobats. Or it was something who are
Who they cast
Yeah,
in Dog Soldiers. Wow, amazing.
Yeah, because I saw that film at, I think, probably one of its first screenings. It was either at Dead by Dawn or Fright Fest. I can't remember which. But I just remember the audience reaction was just like, is there a bit where the guy goes, "They think it's all over, it is now," and he kicks the head out the window or something? And just the audience just erupted at, like, you know, but there was just that buzz after it that you'd just seen something amazing.
Because
Like,
it's Neil Marsh's debut feature, like, and it's just the raw energy of it. Because quite often when we watch an independent film or one, say, from Ireland or England or anything like that, you kind of almost go in with a certain kind of like, you know, we'll forgive it for some of the things because you can't expect it to be up there with kind of bigger budget films or American films. Like Dog Soldiers just it opens and it just keeps going as if it's not even interested in trying to impress you. It's just,
It's
we're
not.
here. It's just,
Yeah.
this could, like, there's no sign of the budget being a problem to me anyway.
It's like it naturally exists in the
Yeah.
world. This movie just has
It
always
came out fully formed.
Exactly. It is perfect. I love the music as well.
Yes.
Like
Yeah, like I mean, I thought, like, you know, when it started off, it had this real kind of like almost like a documentary kind of feel to it,
with
like,
the couple up in the
with the couple, and then even when the lads are first, like, you know,
but their
moving around
banter
the
is
woods,
great. Remind me of
and
it.
they're
It
getting that
is,
way.
yeah.
But I thought it even looked like one of those like real kind of, you know, that when you see that footage of like army people, like
camaraderie, like
yeah, but like in a commercial or something like that, they're like, join the British forces.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
it kind of reminded you of that type of footage. But then when all the action kicked off, and it was still very kind of handheld, like a lot of that kind of fast moving. But then when they first escape from the woods, and it's kind of going into second act, and they're escaping with that girl. The music kicks in and it's really cinematic. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it kind of changes tone a little bit from the documentary style to the more cinematic.
what was great as well is the twist. I mean, that's
Yeah.
it's like a perfect M. Night Shyamalan.
The old
Still can't
Shyamalan
pronounce
twist.
that man's name, but it's
Shyamalan
it's
twist.
a perfect twist. I like
What a
the
twist.
first time I saw this movie. Like I actually the first time I saw it was on the way home from Australia on the plane. So that's what, a 24-hour flight, and I watched it 7 or 8 times in a row.
Wow.
Mind blown. Like, oh my god. And the twist, I never saw the twist coming, and the more times I watched it again and again and again, I was like, perfect. Oh, did I you should have watched it if you haven't watched it. It's
Is that where it turns out Michael Jackson is the werewolf?
No, where she's a werewolf the whole time.
Yeah, but they kind of, what I like about it, now I didn't watch it again for this podcast, so forgive me if I'm slightly wrong on it, but what I kind of like about it is that it is one of those films from more watching, because there's the whole, it does become clear towards the end, isn't it, that the wolves attacking her, the family that own the house. And that's what the implication is meant to be.
Is that the
Because
wolves are attacking her?
No, but like
because
there's
someone
the photo
says-
on the fireplace of the people, and that's them. Like
That's
I
her
think-
family.
I think
That's
at
her
one-
pack.
But
yeah.
at one stage, someone says, "These wolves are pissed off. We've come in here. We've eaten their porridge. and they're coming to get us." And it's like, oh shit.
That's the bits that make that, like, it's the fact that when they get into the house, the first thing to do is like, we'll get a brew on, like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
and
He
it's
wants a
like
cup
the
of
Shaun
tea,
of the
like-
Dead, but it's not, because it instead of it even, because it's a funny moment, but it's still a very real moment.
Yeah,
in an
yeah,
odd
yeah.
way. Like, it's just, that's what I love about all those stages when they go into the house. Yeah, it feels like how people would properly behave.
Yeah.
And defend the thing, like.
And when your man goes out to cause a distraction, he's like, "Come on, have a go if you think you're on enough."
But it's weird when you say things like, it sounds like it could be a real cheesy, crappy kind of thing.
It
It's
feels
not,
real.
though.
No, it feels totally real.
And it breaks my heart that we don't see more Neil Marshall films.
Yeah,
what else did he do?
completely,
The Descent?
completely. Which
Oh,
I
In his follow up,
loved.
and you're like, holy god!
I loved
damn
The
good.
Descent.
He did obviously Doomsday, which I have quite a
Doomsday.
fondness for. Like, it's bizarre. It's about 4 different films in one, but there's
I've
good
heard
entertainment.
of
It's
that,
like
actually.
Escape from New York with 28 Days Later with Resident Evil, followed by a wrap up from Mad Max.
He
I'm
was
there.
supposed to do a film. He was signed on to do a film, a Dracula film, but just set on the boat.
Oh,
Oh
cool!
wow, the
You know,
Dementor.
Yeah.
Amazing.
And it was supposed to be an amazing script, but it fell through. And he, because I was chatting to him briefly once, and he was saying the big
Fun.
problem is that you can't get the budgets anymore.
Yeah, that's he's
to make-
given up on it.
you
So
know,
like, he
and,
does
like-
Game of Thrones and stuff now.
Yeah, so like TV is where you
No
can
wonder I
actually,
love Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
you know,
but it is. He did one, which I thought was quite good actually. The Roman one, where they're trying to get back. Is it like the Iron Eagle or something? That sounds much more World
Is
War
it a
II-ish.
film? Sorry.
Yeah, no, it was a film. It was around the time that the Centurion came out as well, but it was set in England. It's a good film. I'm pretty
Oh,
sure.
is it
I'm almost
Iron
certain it's in-
Eagle?
Something. It's something
No.
like.
that's a film about airplanes.
No,
Yeah, Tom Cruise.
Eagle
Tom Cruise
Heart.
It's
No.
do you know
Oh, that's
there's something
Valkyrie.
about.
I remember when it came out.
Yeah,
in
it's a
X-Vision.
Rome, like it's their kind of shield that they have or something
Yeah.
that represents their army. And it's stolen, needs to go and get it, but it's worth watching. But it's
Was that
just
him? Okay.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that was him. It
Right.
was the last one, but yeah, we just nothing more since then. And like, it's nothing against TV, and I completely understand from his point of view. But when you see those films, you just go
Well,
no. And you know, people even like The Descent for me is actually one of the best made
Yeah,
films.
Yeah, I love The
And,
Descent.
like,
I think it's fantastic.
People kind of go, oh yeah, but like, you know, these things work. When you see The Descent too, you realize the difference it makes having a brilliant director like Neil Marshall.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not even just the creatures, it's not just the setting, it's not just good actors. Like, it's just someone who can handle that material.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. But Dog Soldiers again. more fangirling over that movie because it's just one of the greatest ever. You know that scene at the end. It's like that. I'm after forgetting what's the name of the movie with the eye and the razor.
Dog soldiers.
Oh, zombie flesh eater.
No,
Oh
no.
the
Salvador Dali one.
The Salvador Dali.
Yeah. And they did that.
It was a dog soldiers.
Sorry, your joke just dawned on me.
What joke?
Dog soldiers?
Oh,
no, but that
dog soldiers,
kind of homage at the end, but with the sword in the teeth.
Sword in the teeth.
And the
is
sound.
one bit I'm not okay with.
And
That's it's like
perfect.
the fingers and things.
It's perfect.
It's just horrendous though.
Oh, it is so good.
And you know what? Normally I hate cheap Matrix jokes, but There Is No Spoon works fantastic. In the film.
Spoon.
Yeah, but then there is no spoon. It was the whole.
Oh, there is
Matrix
no
joke
spoon.
at the
Yeah,
time.
because wait,
Where's spoon? There is no spoon.
is that they picked? Is it Spoon that they picked the watch out of the guts?
It could be. I can't
And
quite remember.
oh my god, it's just it's phenomenal.
But it's in the bursts of, because it's weird because it's actiony as well as horror. Like
Yeah.
It
but
is.
the bursts of firepower when the wolves are attacking everything, like the intensity of that is just wonderful.
Yeah.
Because it does remind me of Aliens, like with the pulse rifles going off and the aliens just coming in their hordes and stuff like that. It's just, considering there is only 4 or 5 wolves, it feels like that's a really sustainable threat. You know, like
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like, oh well, we're just gonna kill them
Well,
one at a
usually
time.
it's only
Like,
one werewolf, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like,
Yeah.
and in this you've got like a whole like army team.
It's a
like,
and I
pack
like they
working
dumped the silver kind of thing and
together.
everything like that. You know, like
well,
they
no,
are
they
animals.
didn't, because that's at the end in the basement they have that to kill. Well, not kill, but stab Liam Cunningham. It is like a silver sword.
So they didn't manage to kill any of the other ones. Well, they blew them up
They blew them up. Yeah,
without silver.
with Sean. Well, they still. I'm stumbling now.
Oh, sorry.
But no, silver is still present in it,
Okay.
because if you go into the closet and they there's like a sword in the closet,
Yes.
like a silver dagger.
I
So
remember the sword. You're like, okay.
so there so there is silver involved in it.
Because
But
if that's their house, that's a silly thing to keep there. It's like Dracula with
that's a
a
good
room
point,
full
but
of garlic.
don't find faults in the movie. Don't find plot holes. But when Sean Pertwee blows up the house, again, that's fantastic.
I love Sean Pertwee.
I
He's
love
great.
Sean
He is good.
Pertwee. He's so great.
And that's why it's so good when he gets his guts ripped out at the start, because up until that point he's just been so in charge.
Yeah.
He's a
You
sarge,
know, and,
yeah.
he's the sergeant in charge, and
Yeah.
he tells that great story about.
Yeah,
like,
we haven't
having
talked about the
having
cow.
to pick, having to pick up his mate, you know, garbage bag and all
tattoo.
that stuff. Yeah, and finding the piece of flesh with the tattoo.
Yeah.
and then it's just at the end of that story, and then the cow just falls in the middle of the thing.
I
and-
jumped like a
and
motherfucker.
your man
at this
jumps
one.
up and starts blasting it with his machine gun, and he's just shooting blanks at it. Like,
But it's just, because like I complain about jump scares a lot and things, but like that's a perfectly fine one. You know, like a jump
It's
scare
a
when it's done
great-
right is great.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
you've no
Totally.
expectation of it and it's not
Yeah.
just
it's not.
you
It's
know.
not being overdone.
Yeah.
It makes sense that could happen.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the time, jump scares. Insidious 3 is a.
That's
It's the worst
that was
for
the
it.
one
Still
I
haven't
think
seen
of
it.
all the time for just
It's
anger.
where it misdirects you basically to go, oh, something's gonna jump out of this corner, something's gonna jump out of this corner, and then it jumps out of an
ceiling.
impossible corner.
Yes.
The ceiling.
That's
where
the
it
problem. The
could come
hand
from.
comes
Yeah,
from above,
yeah,
and you're
yeah.
like, that's just what?
There's nothing there. Yeah.
So
So
not before powering down the computer and closing the door and walking
Those damn
over
ghosts! I
and-
swear to God, power saving.
yeah. Shut down.
It's really it's an old guy, isn't it? Maybe he's just like turn off the lights. But yeah, okay. So is Dog Soldiers? Okay, I think Connor, you're gonna say American Werewolf
For my top one?
Yeah,
I'd go American Werewolf in London.
Me too.
Ali.
Well, Dog Soldiers, because it's one of my favorite films of all
Top
time.
7.
Well,
Top
if you're going
7.
In the
top
top 7
three,
people.
it's like for me, American Werewolf, Dog Soldiers, Ginger Snaps.
Me too.
Okay.
Oh, mine is Dog Soldiers, Curse of the Werewolf, and then probably American Werewolf in London.
Cool.
Yeah, I think I would.
God, I forgot Wolfen
You
though.
see, Wolfen has to be, but I
now you want a
think-
top 4, don't
No,
you?
now I want a top 5.
I'd
Top
probably.
7, man. Top 7's where it's at.
I think you have to give American Werewolf in London the top spot. Like I love Wolfen. It's a really interesting film, but there is issues in there. So yeah, I think I'd go American Werewolf, then Wolfen, and then possibly Ginger Snaps over Dog Soldiers. But I prefer Dog Soldiers as a film, if that makes sense. Like as a werewolf film and as what it contributes to the werewolf thing. I think Ginger Snaps is the smarter one that way. But just Dog Soldiers is just an awesome.
It's
Dog
just damn
Soldiers,
fun.
amazing.
Yeah, like me, it's American Werewolf in London, Dog Soldiers, Ginger Snaps, same as Connor. But if I could fit The Beast Must Die in there somewhere, it's like my 3.5 one. Yeah. So, have we talked about all of our films.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
enough of them.
I talked about Dog Soldiers. I'm happy.
I mean, we skimmed over Wolf with Jack Nicholson and the
Yeah.
Powell, but I you know,
Wolf is a great
that's
movie.
alright.
Let's just say that.
Yeah, the director of The Graduate. Mike
Yeah.
Oh,
Nichols.
Mike
Really?
Nichols.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
love
he's brilliant.
Mike Nichols.
Absolutely
Yeah.
brilliant director.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of directors, one of our listeners sent me an email during the week and asked me about werewolf movies, and he was saying, what directors would we like to see make a werewolf movie? Because, you know, like, I mean, people don't get it
Ooh.
right all the time.
Yeah.
But, like, I mean, did Wes Craven ever do a werewolf movie?
Yeah, Cursed.
Curse.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
For a moment there, you were imagining the great werewolf film that he would
Out
make.
of respect for Mr. Craven,
Cursed is
Absolutely,
it's okay. It's not
No.
great. It's not.
but like in fairness, I
It's
think
not great
him
at
and
all, but
everyone
it's
on it
okay.
admits it, like, because they shot that film nearly 3 or 4 times. Like they reshot.
Oh,
most of-
really?
yeah, they went
Oh,
back a number of
wow.
times and shot like 60 or 70% over and over again. Kevin Williamson does an interesting piece on it. Like I think one of the writer podcasts he did, where he says like literally they just totally rewrote it a ton of times,
Right.
and then like had to try and make sense of the bits of footage they were keeping and everything. Like
Ah,
it's just.
balls.
I don't like Christina Ricci. I think perfect for a werewolf
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
Incredible
Yeah.
look, right? Kind
Yeah.
of, you know.
Love Ricci.
But
And it's got Joshua Jackson.
What
Yeah.
about is Jesse Eisenberg in that as well? In Cursed?
I can't.
I
Judge
don't
remember who's the
recall.
guy. Was
I
it
thought he
your
was.
man
So-
from Dawson's Creek? I don't know.
What about Sam
was Joshua
Raimi? Has Sam
Jackson.
Raimi done a werewolf movie?
No.
No.
I'd say there'd be a good one there, right?
I
mean, I'd
don't
love to see
know.
Sam Raimi go back and do horror, or
Yeah.
Peter Jackson,
Yeah.
or any
Yeah.
of those guys. Like,
Peter
Peter Jackson, I think,
Jackson.
over
No.
Sam Raimi.
Yeah.
For me, I'd like to see him do a werewolf.
I don't know if Sam Raimi would particularly pull off a werewolf.
Okay.
I would love.
I'd pull off a
100%
werewolf.
agree.
Yeah,
You would
I,
definitely.
I was waiting for someone to not let that one go.
Sorry, Ali.
You interrupted my role. I'm done. I'm done.
No, it's like it's a tricky one. Like I think any great director could do a good werewolf film. Like I had an idea I wanted to develop before. And I'm not even going to talk about it here because I still think it'd make a great idea. But what I ran into the trouble with is where if you get an interesting kind of backstory, which was what I had. It's what is you're in. It's are you going to do the story of someone gets bitten and that transformation? Like how do you bring your audience into that world? Do you know what I mean? That's not just something that's been done over and over again.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and I think whatever werewolf films that come out, that's what they're going to have to figure out. Because like even in Ginger Snaps, it was the dynamic of the two girls really as much as anything. The
Yeah.
werewolf is part of that story. But yeah, you need to have a interesting enough story for that to happen around.
Yeah,
You know, and the problem with then if you've got an interesting kind of mythos or backstory, do you end up like something like Wolfen where he only gets like kind of mentioned for 2 or 3 minutes in the film, or do you do kind of a one set back in the time when that stuff happened? You know the way even like vampire films and everything, like or the Dracula ones, they sort of struggle with like flashbacks to things before and everything because most of the interesting stuff is back then.
Yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
as opposed to nowadays.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. I think that will be the problem for it. And again, it's you're gonna have to go back to practical.
I think Ridley
Yeah.
Scott would do a great werewolf movie, maybe.
Like, everything he does looks great.
Exactly.
Just,
That's why I said it.
But he does. He makes everything look fucking.
Well, it's kind of like if whatever film you mentioned, you just mentioned that all the top directors. I'd love to see James Cameron do one. You know,
It'd be
Oh, wow.
great.
Jesus.
Spielberg.
I'd love to see
Yeah.
Spielberg
Blue
werewolves.
werewolves.
Edgar Wright. I'd love to see Edgar Wright do a
Yeah.
werewolf movie. I'd say he'd
Yeah.
pull it off, you know.
I suppose it is that. I mean, he's interesting because it is a lot of the werewolf films. It is been able to draw that fine line between the comedy and horror
Yeah.
often.
It is.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's something I do think, and it's probably the reason there's a lot more vampire films.
Yeah.
Because I think inherently there's something slightly funny about a hairy guy jumping around the place.
You're right. It's hard, and
Absolutely.
if you do
Yeah.
too po-faced, it can become ridiculous. I think that's
Yeah.
probably what Wolf suffered a little
Or
bit
Wolfman,
from.
even.
Exactly.
Even
yeah,
the
yeah.
remake of Wolfman, where
Yeah.
they try to make this kind of, like you were saying, this Dracula kind of sexy operatic kind of
Christopher
take on
Nolan.
it.
That's who I want
and
to
it
do.
doesn't work when
Oh.
like
Yes.
yeah. It's the same with those scenes at the end of Wolf where they're springing around the
See,
place.
that's the problem. Yeah, and
it's
but with
just
all sincerity,
funny.
like what, because they really, I get what they were going for with that, and
Yeah.
I actually like it, and I like because personally, I like the more kind of straight approach. But you're watching
Yeah.
it, and that's where it goes wrong.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
that final fight scene is meant to be really exciting and
Yeah.
aggressive, and it's ridiculous because
Yeah.
they kind of do the leaps.
Yeah,
you know, and they're on
yeah.
blatant wires, like they're sort of
Yeah,
floating
yeah.
over the air, and it just.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would have been better off. They've just ripped the shit into each other.
Yeah,
as
exactly.
men, you know,
Yeah.
just standing there like hitting each other.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, you probably do need a comedy. Maybe Edgar Wright would be a good idea.
Yeah.
But I do, like I said earlier on, I do think it's nice when you see a werewolf movie that doesn't necessarily rely so heavily.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
with you
but
on
Dog
that.
Soldiers, okay, yes, I know, I love it. It's funny.
But again,
Yes.
the comedy is separate. Though. Like
It
the
is.
wolves are scary. They're
It
they're
is.
never funny.
And the
you know?
comedy
It
is
is.
there to kind of
It
give you-
alleviates the
give you-
tension.
but to relieve the tension exactly, because it is so tense and
It
it's
is so
claustrophobic.
tense.
It's cabin fever in that like one little house, and then every now and again there's some sort of smart kind of comment on what's kind of going on.
And then there's Spoon.
Yeah,
And then there's
I
Spoon.
love
everyone
Spoon.
spoons.
And on that bombshell, folks.
And it's a full moon tonight, is it?
It is.
Apparently-
It's actually the wolf.
Wasn't it?
moon.
Unfortunately, because people probably listen to this in 2 weeks. So
Yes.
No.
And during the
We
time
are
of
now
recording
all
this,
werewolves.
It's the
Saturday
first-
the 14th.
Ali has a little bit
moon.
of hair on the back of her hands. I didn't want to say anything.
It's
normal.
growing, I'm
That's normal,
transformed.
right?
Has anyone got any wolf bane?
Yeah, no, that was great. I just love talking about Dog Soldiers, really.
Yeah, so hopefully by the time this,
So next week, Neil Marshall films.
hopefully by the time this podcast comes out, we will have our brand new Facebook page set up
Yep.
where we're going to be sharing all of our future podcasts and our previous podcasts, so you can catch up on the ones that we've done before. And anything else?
If you haven't, it's off topic, but just the other day I rewatched The Fog, and if you haven't watched The Fog in a while,
The
like
Fog's
everyone loves
great.
The Fog, but if you haven't seen it in a while, rewatch it and just remember how brilliant it is. Like for me, it's just incredible.
It's
So
a great movie.
Have you guys seen the TV show The Director's Chair, Robert Rodriguez?
no,
No.
Great TV show. Everyone who wants to make films should watch it. It should be shown in film schools. It's really
Where
good
did we see it?
because it's on the El Rey network, so it's on
Oh,
his
okay, yeah,
his
the
network.
channel, yeah.
But you can see it online. But because a lot of the times when you see directors being interviewed, it's real kind of soft questions like, and what was it? What were the cast like? And what was the
these
thing
are
like?
real
These
questions
are
like
actual.
filmmaking.
How did you pull off that thing in that movie? But John Carpenter was talking, and it brings them through everyone's filmography, and it makes you go, oh my god, they did this film, they did that
it's
film.
scary when you kind of list them
It's
all off. You're like,
really,
wow.
yeah, it's really impressive. But I think the first episode is with John Carpenter, and he talks to him about The Fog, and he said the first iteration of The Fog, it was this real kind of like harsh, like almost kind of a brutal kind of take on it. And then when he realized he was trying to tell a ghost story, that he kind of pulled things back a lot and went a lot more elegant with it, and it's a lot slower, and
It's
the
a classic
music
ghost
and-
story, yeah. Even though actually it was funny, sorry, on that, because like he also, I was listening to a bit of the commentary, and like what I love hearing from these kind of directors is that sort of truth and honesty, because when they finished the film, the scares just weren't working at all. And like this is a guy who'd already made like Assault on Precinct 13 and Halloween, like this guy knows his stuff, but they were able to look at the edit and say this didn't work, and they just went back and they reshot these bits and put them in. Like
He
that's
slowed it down.
yeah, it's a natural part of the process
Yeah.
as opposed to a failing. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
and I just
yeah,
love
yeah.
that a director can actually just kind of say that, like don't be afraid to do that. Like,
Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool.
Check it out.
All right.
So this has been Ali Horror, and I'm gonna make these stick guys. I invented names for
Basically,
us.
Ali's bullying people by giving them names they don't want.
They're fantastic.
And Ali's is the only one that doesn't rhyme.
Yeah, but shut up.
I like Dirty Alleyway. I thought that was really good. Good night, folks.
This is Connor McMahon signing off.
Signing off.
I want a gal with a lot of dough. When I find her, we're gonna swing up to the preacher with the wedding ring. Tell me where she is, 'cause I don't know. So eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I've been looking all over town, but so far she ain't been around. Someday I'll meet her, and then I'll say, shoo-ba-doo-ba, baby, we're on our way. Hurry up now and follow me, but don't forget to bring your do-re-mi.